Hey, Tim Unkert here. In this video, I want to do a mega tutorial on Emacs. If you've been watching my channel lately, you may have seen me doing a C++ tutorial, and I was using C-Line and Sublime, showing you the different text editors there. And I've used some paid editors and other free editors on this channel. But one of my favorite editors, which is free, is Emacs. And I kind of wanted to get back into making a few videos with Emacs on the channel. So I thought one great way to do it would be to do a mega tutorial on Emacs, just to kind of refresh my memory on all the great things that Emacs has, and also to share it with you. Okay, so I've got a Chromebook here, and this Chromebook is freshly power washed, so it's a blank slate. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to first enable Linux. And I have this pinned here, so this is my terminal. But if you don't have it pinned, you can go here and just search for settings. And I'll open up my settings. And I want to go to advanced and then developers. And from here, I have the ability to turn the Linux development environment on. I'm going to click turn on and then next. And it's going to give me the default username that kind of goes along with my account. So T Unkert, that's fine. And then the disk size that I want to allot, the recommended is 10 gigabytes, or I can do a custom. I can also change this later. I'm going to leave it at 10, and I'm going to click install. And that's going to go ahead and install Linux on my device. I'll be back in a few moments. Okay, and I'm back. And once Linux installs on your Chromebook, you'll notice that you get this terminal prompt that prompts up here. Let me just go here to my settings, and I'm going to make this slightly larger for you. So let's boost it all the way up to 20 so you can see what I'm doing, and I'll make this full screen. Now, what I like to do initially when I first set up Linux is to make sure everything's up to date. So to do that, I'm going to type sudo apt update and then 2 ampersands for and sudo apt grade. And I'm going to do a -y at the end here so I don't have to, because if I don't do the -y, it's going to ask me, hey, do you want to take this extra space? And then you have to say yes. So that just goes ahead and does it. Okay, that's the -y. So it's not going to ask me that. And it's going to run through and do the update, and I'll be back. Okay, and it's run through and updated. And what I can do is do a Control L to just clear that stuff out. Okay, so now what I want to do is install Emacs. And to do that, I can just type sudo apt install Emacs. And I'm going to do that -y flag at the end there so I don't have to answer that I want the extra space taken. Okay, now that we have Emacs installed, one thing that you might want to do, and I've pinned it previously, so it just brings it up right up on my little bar here on the bottom. And I can actually close out the settings right now. So let's close that out. So you see that, but if you don't have that, you should see it here, and you can just right click. You're seeing it's giving me the option to unpin from shelf or uninstall. But if you haven't pinned it to the shelf, it will give you the option to pin it to your shelf. I recommend doing that because it's nice and easy to start it up. One thing I want to do is make sure that we restart Linux after we've done these updates. So I'm just going to close this out. And what I'm going to do right here is right click on this terminal and just click shut down Linux. I'm going to wait a minute, or well, a few seconds really. And then I'm just going to go here to this penguin thing here and Penguin Linux. Anyways, I'm going to restart my terminal there. Okay. And that's going to restart Linux. That's going to take a moment. And I'm going to sip a coffee while I'm having that. We're doing that. Okay. So once this pops up, you know that Linux has restarted. I'm just going to close that out and close this out. And we can right click here. You want to run the Emacs GUI for the most part. Okay, and this is what you're going to get. Kind of a small screen, and you got this toolbar here on the menu and scroll right here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to fix up a few things here. And one thing I'm going to do also, before I get started, because I'm particular, I'll show you another trick. I'm going to make a directory here. I'm going to go mkdir-p.local /share/fonts. And I'm just going to close this out. And I'm going to go up here and just get a font that I like, which is Cascadia Code, which is a free font that Microsoft created. And I'm going to go to the GitHub here, go to releases, download this zip here. And I'll just click show in folder here. Go to here. Now this isn't particular Emacs, but I figured I'd show you. And I'm going to highlight that and highlight down to here. Just do a copy. Go to my Linux files. Click on show hidden files. Go to that .local, share fonts, and just paste all those fonts in there. And that'll allow me to use Cascadia Code as a font in Emacs. So that's pretty cool. Let's close this out. And now what I'm going to do is just restart Emacs so it recognizes that. And we'll get the font a little bit larger for you. So we'll go to Options, go to Set Default Font. I'm going to search for Cascadia. You see there's a bunch of options coming up. So let's see. go up to Cascadia, scroll up, scroll up, scroll up. Cascadia code. There's a lot here. Cascadia code regular. And let's really crank up the font here for the video. Let's make it 18 to start, and we'll select. And now we've got this. Whoa, this is big, okay? So what I want to do now is I want to take care of a few things with my setup. So what I can do first is do Meta X, which the Meta key on a Chromebook is the Alt key. So Alt X. And at the bottom here, you'll see that I get this option. I get my blinking cursor here. I'm going to type Customize option. Okay. And then I want to start with full screen. Okay. So I'm going to do default -frame -a list and hit enter. And we'll see that we have this. I can insert something here. So I'm going to do an insert, and instead of the parameter being nil, I'm going to do full screen. And then the value is going to be maximized. Okay. I'm going to click apply and save. And I want to make sure everything is working. So what I'm going to do is now just quit Emacs with Control X, Control C. And you can just hold down the Control button, press X and C. And then I'm going to restart Emacs. And you'll see it boosts up to this full screen here. Now, I did not save the font, so the font wasn't preserved. So I want to do that. So let me go back here, and I'll go to Set Default Font. Okay, and I'll do Cascadia code, and we'll go up, find regular. I think 18 was a little large. Let's try 16 for the video. I'll do select. Okay, so now we get this, the font, fairly decent size, I think, for the video. And what I want to do is do options, and then down here, save options. Okay, so now it wrote it to this .emacs file. That's my config file for Emacs. So now I'm going to close this out, and let's restart it and see if our font stays. Okay, so now we've got that bigger font. Nice. Okay, a couple of other things I like to do is get rid of this toolbar here. So I'm going to do Alt X and then customize option. And then we'll do toolbar mode down here, hit enter. And I'm going to go here and toggle it to off and click apply and save. And you'll see it gets rid of that. We can keep the scroll bar and the menu bar for now, but that's, how you get this going. Okay. All right. So let's close this back out, reopen. Okay. And I want to show you how to create a directory. So to do that, we're going to do Control XD, and this is going to bring up DIRED, which is the directory manager in Emacs. I'm going to hit enter, and we'll see we have all our dot files here. You can set this up so it doesn't show all this stuff, but for right now, I'm going to leave it. And what I can do is do the plus. So I'm going to do the key right besides the backspace, Shift and plus. And that's going to allow me to create a directory. I'm going to create a test directory, and you'll see that we have the test directory here. I can now hit enter to go into that. And if I want to create a file, I can do Control X, Control F, and let's do a test.org file. Emacs is famous for its org mode, so we'll do that. And now we're in a new file, and I can do something like an asterisk. This is a heading in org mode, and I can just start typing. Okay, and I can save it with Control X, Control S. Okay, I just hold down the Control key and do Control X, Control S. Okay, now if I do Control X D, now you want to do Control X, then let up on the Control and hit D. You'll see the DIRED comes up. I'm in this test directory. Now I could just do a backspace here. Oops, actually no. I'm gonna go down here, do the backspace here and go back to my main directory. Or I could go back to my test directory here. Now you'll see directory has changed on disk, type G to up date dear ed. So I'm going to do G. And we'll see that we have this like temp file here, and then we have the other file. I can do N and P to move up and down. So I'll go down, and then I can get back to my file. Okay, so that's getting started with Emacs here. I haven't installed any plugins or anything. If you do want to change the theme, you can do Control X and type in Customize Theme. And then you have some default themes here. You can install a bunch if you really want to. But if you want to do, let's see, a slightly darker one like Mysterio, so we can do that. Okay, and then we can go up here with Control P to move up and click on Save Theme Settings. Now, if I exit out, it's going to ask me if I want to save that file. I said yes. And I can open back up. And now I have this darker default theme. For the video, I kind of like the light theme. So I'm going to go Alt-X to customize themes rather. And I'm going to just do Control-N to move down. And I'm going to uncheck Mysterioso. And I'm going to go back up here and hit enter when my cursor is on the save theme settings. Okay, so now I've got the default theme. Okay, so one of the cool sites on Emacs that I was looking at yesterday and I bookmarked was the basic GNU Emacs getting started. So I'm scrolling through my bookmarks here to get to the last one. Yeah, I have a lot. Okay, so this is the GNU Emacs guided tour, and I think that'd be a good place to start. All right, so a guided tour of Emacs. So we have this GNU Emacs manual, and this talks about the Emacs. So it's an extensible, customizable, self-documenting, real-time display editor. Okay, so it goes through a couple samples. So you can edit plain text files. You can compile and run files within Emacs. So this is interesting for C or C++. You have this general debugger here, and you can do Alt-X or Meta-X GDB, and then it will run the debugger. Okay, that's kind of cool. And you can compare two files and highlight their differences. So Alt-X E diff here. Okay. We talked about dear ed. That's pretty cool. Where we can create directories and files. Okay, another thing that I haven't really used much is the mail, but you can do, I've used the browser with inside Emacs, so you can browse the web, and you can play Tetris if you want to, which I don't know. I don't find much use for that, but that's kind of cool. All right, so it says here, you might see why people consider Emacs to be not merely a text editor, but also a complete operating system. Some users find that they can do almost all their work from within Emacs. Now, one thing that's drawing me back to Emacs is org mode, which you can export to many different file types. I'm going to be teaching mathematics, so just creating documentation for my courses and that kind of stuff. I think org mode is a great way to go. Okay, so let's look at this why Emacs. Okay, so all the basic editing commands, and there are lots of them, are available no matter what you're trying to do. Write code, read a manual, use a shell. There are several shells within Emacs, or compose an email. All the tools Emacs provides for opening, saving, searching, and processing text and more are available to you no matter what you're doing. Okay, all right, so let's say they continue. The uniformity means that working with Emacs is often easier than learning to use a separate program, especially when that program is liable to have its own set of capabilities and shortcuts. So I guess back in the day when computers weren't as powerful, now I'm on a Chromebook from Walmart that's like $200, and it's like, or was $200. Now it's even cheaper. I think they just keep getting faster and faster. But this was $200 maybe a year ago. Now this thing it runs Emacs just fine. But if you're talking about a computer from the 90s uh, or even earlier, that Emacs might have been a little slow to start up. But the thing about Emacs is you've got all this stuff from within Emacs. So even back then, you could start up Emacs and then pretty much do everything you wanted to do within Emacs. Okay. Now it just, you'll see it. It starts instantly right up. You can run it on a low-powered machine, and it's much faster than a lot of the other modern programs. And that's because, if you look at Emacs and Vim, they were both originally, VI was created around the same time Emacs was, but basically the 70s, right? So right around the time I was born. Okay, so they were created. So back, computers were far less powerful than they are today. This Chromebook that I'm running on today, even though it's a cheap Chromebook from Walmart, not that there's anything wrong with that, they are, vastly more powerful than a computer from, say, the 90s or even the early 2000s. Or maybe even mid 2000s. Technology, it improves quickly. Okay, so then it continues here. Sorry, I got off on that tangent. That you can use Emacs eLisp or Emacs Lisp, which is eLisps, to customize it. So you can go into that .emacs file and really customize Emacs, create our own functions if we wanted to for Emacs to get it to work the way we want it to work. It then continues here. Emacs is also portable. Okay, so you can use it on, I'm using it on a Chromebook with Debian Linux. You can use it on Windows. You can use it on Mac, etc. Let's see. So let's go down here a little bit. And okay, so we can run a tutorial within Emacs. So we can do Control-HT. So let's try and do that. So we'll do Control-HT. And we've got our Emacs tutorial. So, okay, let's kind of go through this. So Emacs commands generally involve the control key, sometimes labeled CTRL or CTL, or the meta key, sometimes labeled edit or alt. Okay, so on my Chromebook, it's labeled alt. Rather than write that in full time, we use the following abbreviations. So C for control, M for meta or alt. Okay. To end an Emacs session, we already talked about this. You do Control-X, Control-C. To quit a partially entered command, type Control-G. So let's say I do Alt-X and then I start to type, I don't know what I'm doing. Doing. And then I'm like, oh, wait, I really don't know what I'm doing. I want to get out of here. I'm going to do Control-G. Okay, and I'm out of there. All right, so that's nice. To stop the tutorial, we can do Control-XK. So let's do that, Control-XK. And kill buffer. We're going to kill it. No. Okay. All right, so now we've gotten out of the tutorial. All right, let's do Control-HT to get back into it. And cool. All right, so the characters, this double chevron here at the left or double greater than at the left margin indicate directions for which you try using a command. Okay, so they're going to have us try using a command down here. Now a little skip ahead. If I want to go down, I can do Control, just hold Control and do N. There are other ways that are better that we'll get to in a minute. We can also just scroll up and down with the mouse. Okay, so we're going to type Control-V, view next screen, to scroll down in the tutorial. Here we go, right to the next one. All right, so let's do Control-V. All right, so we went down. Now we can do Control-P to get back up. All right, so when we reach the end of the screen, we just want to do Control-V. All right, it says, note there is an overlap of two lines when you scroll a whole screen full. This provides some continuity so that you can continue reading the text. This is the copy of the Emacs tutorial text customized slightly for you. Later on, we will instruct you to try various commands to alter this text. Don't worry if you change this text before we tell you to. That is called editing, and that's what Emacs is for. The first thing that you need to know is how to move from place to place in the text. You already know how to move forward one screen with Control V. To move backwards one screen, we're going to do Alt V. Okay, so let's try that. So let's do Alt V. Oh, wow. Moved up. Okay. All right. Another trick, we can do Alt Shift and comma for basically Alt less than symbol, Alt Shift comma, and we can go to the top. Let's jump ahead a little bit. And then we could do Alt Shift period for Alt greater than and move to the bottom. Okay. Let's go back to the top. All right. We'll do Control V to go down. All right. So it says try typing Alt V and then Control V a few times. It's okay to scroll this text in other ways if you know how. So you can scroll down with Control N, scroll up with Control P, okay, or use the mouse. All right. So let's talk about the summary. So the summary, the following commands are useful for viewing screenfuls. So Control V, move forward one screenful. Alt V, move backward one screenful. Control L, clear screen and redisplay all the text, moving the text around the cursor to the center of the screen. So it's Control L is, what does that mean? That's basically Control L is centering the screen. So let's go up here. So let's go up to this top line here. I'll do Control L. It centers it where my cursor is. So that's what Control L does. So just in case, because this doesn't, I think it should just say center the text where the cursor's at. But anyways, all right. So now they want us to do this again. So we're going to find the cursor and note what text is near it. Type Control L. Okay, so we're going to center it. Notice it. Find the cursor again. Notice that the same text is still near the cursor, but now it is in the center of the screen. Okay, so there I'm jumping ahead before reading. If you press Control L again, this piece of text will move to the top of the screen. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, wow. And press Control L again, it moves to the bottom. Ooh. And then we can move to the center. Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, I actually just used it to center, but you learn something new every day. You can also use the page up and page down keys to move by screenfuls if your terminal has them, but you can edit more efficiently if you use Control V or Alt V. Okay, let's go down and let's do Control L and center this. All right, cool. Moving from one, actually, let's move to the top. Moving from one screenful to screenful is useful, but how do you move to a specific place within the text on the screen? Okay, so like I talked about, previous line, you do Control P. Next line, you do Control N. And then if you want to move backward, okay, you can do Control B, and forward, you can do Control F. So let's go down here and let's do Control F. So I'm moving forward one character with Control F. Okay, see my cursor go, moving from screenful to screenful. But if I want to move now back, I can do Control B. Okay, I'm going to give you a little hint. What if I do Alt F? Ooh, seems I'm moving forward each word. What about Alt B? Ooh, I'm moving backward each word. Okay, so that's a little jump ahead. All right, then it continues moving the cursor to the line in the middle of that diagram using Control N or Control P. Then type Control L to see the whole diagram centered in the screen. Okay, so we could do Control L and get it centered again. Okay, and we can do Control L to bring it back up to the top. All right, I'm going to do Control N to get down a few lines. All right. Okay, so we did that. All right. Do a few Control N's to bring the cursor down to this line. So I just did that. Now let's center it. Move into the line with Control F's and then up with Control P's. So I can do Control F, Control P to go up. See what Control P does when the cursor is in the middle of the line. So let's go to the middle of the line, like here. Okay. It should move back to the end of the previous line. This is because it moves back across a new line character. So if I go up, move into the line with Control S, and then up with Control P's. All right, so let's go to the middle of the line here. So middle of the line, right? Okay, yeah, it moves to the end here, okay? And then if we go up, yeah, for some reason it moved into the middle there. Anyways, but yeah, it moves to the end because of the new line character. That's what they're telling us. Try Control B at the beginning of the line. It should you move back to the previous line. Okay, so let's get to the beginning of the line, do Control B. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, Control B, Control F. I think we get it. Let's do Control L to center. Do Control N. Okay. We can do, they're also talking about Alt F, which goes forward a word, and Alt B, which goes back a word. Okay. Let's keep going down. Don't want to bore you too much with this. Okay, Control A and Control E. So Control A moves you to the beginning. Control E moves you to the end of the line. Pretty cool, right? Let's do Alt A. Alt A. Now let's actually do Control End here, and then we'll do Alt A. That moves you to the beginning of a paragraph, okay? Let's Alt E to the end. Now let's do Control A. So that's the beginning of the line, not the current line you're on, not the paragraph, okay? So Control E moves you to the end of the line, but Alt A will move you to the beginning of the paragraph, okay? So that's a little difference. Like if I did Alt A, but then Control E, I'm going to end up here. Okay, so think about that when you're moving around, how to quickly get to where you want to go, whether it's Alt A, Alt E, Control A, or Control E. Okay. All right. Okay, so repeated Control A's do nothing. So let's do Control A, Control A, Control A. Okay, but repeated Alt A's keep moving one more sentence. Let's do that. Alt A, Alt A. Oh yeah, it's beginning of the sentence, not the paragraph. Sorry. So we're moving to the beginning of the sentence. So let's do Alt E to move to the end of these sentences here. Okay, then it continues. The location of the cursor in the text is called point. To paraphrase, the cursor shows on the screen where point is located in the text. Okay. All right, so here's a summary of simple cursor moving operations, including the word and sentence moving commands. So these we've all gone through. Alt A, move to the beginning of the sentence. I misspoke and said paragraph, but sentence. Alt E, move to the end of the sentence. And then Control A and Control E are moved to the beginning and end of the line. All right, let's go down here and let's center this with Control L. Okay, they want us to try these a bunch of times. You guys can do that. All right, so then it talks about the meta less than. The way I do this is Alt Shift comma to get meta less than. We go to the beginning, okay? All right, and then we can go to the end, okay? And then the beginning, and then the end, okay? Let's go back to the beginning, and then let's scroll down a few pages here to get back to where we were. I'm doing Control V to move down these pages. All right, so here we are. Yeah, and then continues on most terminals. The less than is above the comma, so you use the Shift key to type it, and on most keys use the Shift key to type meta less than also. Without the Shift key, you would be typing meta comma. Okay. And then we can use Alt V to move up once we move to the end. Okay, let's go down here. Okay, most Emacs commands accept a numeric argument. For most commands, this serves as a repeat count. The way you give a command a repeat count is by typing Control U and then the digits before you type the command. Let's try that. Let's do Control U, 3, Control P. Okay, Control U 10, Control P. Wow, I moved up 10 lines there. Okay. Notice I can also move around with the mouse. I just want to point that out. I can click on it here, go here, wherever I want. So you can use the mouse if you just want to. All right, so they have here Control U 8, Control F moves forward 8 characters. Let's try that. Control U 8, Control F. There we go. We went through 8. Let's go Control U 8, Control N. We'll move down 8 characters. So we move down here. Okay. Let's center this with Control L. Okay. So the way you learn all this stuff is repeatedly doing it. Come back to this tutorial, check it out, write some code, write some text. Try this stuff. Write down some of these commands on a piece of paper. They'll get into your head, okay? Okay, they're talking about scrolling, so still repeated commands here. You can also use the mouse to scroll. If Emacs stops responding to commands, you can stop it safely by doing Control G. So Control G, remember, quits. You can use Control G to stop a command which is taking too long to execute. You can also use Control G to discard a numeric argument or the beginning of a command that you do not want to finish. Okay, so again, it quits. All right. Okay, so they want us to try Control U, 100, Control G, Control F. So I only went forward 1 character there because I quit out of it with Control G. I'm going to do Control L to get this back in the center of the screen. If you type escape my mistake, you can get rid of it by typing Control G. So notice I type escape here, and I've got this commands coming down here. It's like, oh, you're going to do something? No, I want to do Control G. Quit out of that. All right, disabled commands. So some Emacs commands are disabled so that beginning users cannot use them by accident. If you type one of the disabled commands, Emacs displays a message saying what the command was and asking you whether you want to go ahead and execute the command. If you really want to try the command, type space in the answer to the question. Normally, if you do not want to execute the disabled command, you would type no. All right, so they want to do Control X, Control L. And do we want to do this? We're going to type no, okay? All right, let's go down here. All right, so Emacs can have several windows, each displaying its own text. We will explain later on how to use multiple windows, okay? So one window is Control X1. So let's go through some of this. So if I want to do a window that opens to the right, I can do Control X3. I can do Control XO to move over to it, Control XO to move back. I can also do Control X2 to split the windows vertically. And then I could do Control X1 to get them all back, just one window, okay? So yeah, you can create a bunch of different windows that way. All right, inserting and deleting. Let's bring this up. If you want to insert text, just type the text. Okay, so cool. I'm inserting text. Now, if I want to get rid of all this text, I can do Control A to get to the start of this line, do a Control K to delete that line. Okay, so that's a little jump ahead. To delete a character immediately before the current cursor position, type delete. Okay. This is the key on the keyboard, usually labeled backspace. So let me type A, and if I do backspace, it deletes it. So that's pretty normal. Okay, that's not the one we refer to delete. So delete is the backspace. Okay. All right, when a line of text gets too big for one line on the screen, the line is continued onto the second line. Let's show you that. So this is a line that is going to be too long. So I'm going to need to wrap it around the screen by continuing to type, and then, oh, look at that. It's going to wrap. Okay. So yeah, if we're using the graphical display, you see this little arrow here. And if it's terminal, you see a slash. But again, we're going to use the graphical display. Okay, so we can use delete to get rid of it, or let's do Control A to get to the start line, Control K to delete all of it. All right. You can delete a new line character just like any other character. Okay, so if we're here and we do backspace, okay, it merges it. If we return, we get the new line character back. Okay, so that's all that's saying. Okay, so remember, most Emacs commands can be given a repeat count. This includes text characters. Repeating text characters inserts them several times. Let's try that. So I'm going to try Control U 8 star. Okay, Control U 8. Ah, cool. That's pretty neat. Yeah, that's pretty neat. I'm going to go to the start here with Control A and Control K to delete the line. Okay, so here we talk about Control K, delete the cursor from the beginning of the line. Alt D, kill the next word after the cursor. Control D, delete the next character after the cursor. Alt backspace, remember this is backspace, kill the word immediately before the cursor. So let's say I wanted to kill here. So I'm going to do Alt backspace, Alt backspace. And for me, that's not working. I can do Control XU to undo that. Okay, interesting. All right, Alt K, kill to the end of the current sentence. So Alt K, look at that. We killed to the end of the sentence. Now we can do Control XU to bring that back, to undo it. All right, let's notice that the backspace and Control D versus Alt Delete and Alt D extend the parallel started by Control F and MF. Okay. You can kill a segment of text with one uniform method. So, okay. What they're trying to do in this next, let's kill this. So we're going to do Control Space to start highlighting it. And then we'll go down and highlight it. And hopefully you can see this. And we go Control N here. And then what we can do is Control W to get rid of that. Okay. Now, if we want it back, we could do Control Y, okay, to paste it back. Okay, so it cuts it and pastes it. So Control W cuts and Control Y paste. Now, if I want to do Control Space here and start highlighting, then do Control P and Control A to go up and highlight. And if I want to do Alt W, that'll copy it without cutting it. And if I go here, I can paste it. And now I can have, the same thing here. So that's pasting. I believe you can also do Control Shift 2 and then go up, and that does the highlighting as well. And I could do an Alt W, or I could do a Control W, let's cut it, and then Control Y to paste it. Now, my theme here is probably not showing up on the video that well, so let's just change the theme. So we're going to customize theme here. Let's go down, and I can also do N and P to get around here. Let's do Tango, see if Tango shows up a little bit better, maybe. And let's go back to the tutorial. So Control HT, Control HT. Revert it. Yes, let's revert back to the beginning, and we'll do Control V to go down. We're past there, past there. Okay, we're somewhere around here. Let's see, can we tell? Let's do a Control E. Okay, there we go. That's a lot better. All right. So now if I do an Alt W here, um, and then go to the end here and do paste, I can paste it in. So I've got now these two paragraphs here. Okay. Move the cursor to Y at the start of the previous paragraph. So if you want to do that, we could do Control A to move back the sentences there. All right, so this is just talking about what I did. Let's Control V down. Okay, so if we go down here a little bit, Control K kills the contents of the line, and a second Control K kills the line itself and makes all the other lines move up. Okay, so let's try that. Let's do a Control K. So we killed it because there was no contents. Let's do a Control K, Control K. Okay, cool. And I'm just undoing it with Control XU. Okay. Keep going down here. The command for yanking is Control Y. So yanking is not like in Vim where yanking is copying. Yanking is pasting in Emacs. So let's do a Control space and do an Alt A. No, sorry, Alt E here, and we'll do Alt W to copy it, and then if I wanted to paste it, I yank it. I do Control Y. Okay, that's the technical Emacs term. Okay, they want you to yank. Okay, so all right, so let's say you can get back to using the MY command or Alt Y. Okay, let's try that. All right. I'm going to do Alt Y here. Previous command was not a yank. Okay, so if I want to yank, I can go here and do a yank, and then we'll do a meta Y. Okay, and then it reinserts the last killed text from the current cursor position. Okay, interesting. I don't really use the Alt Y a lot. Okay, undo. Let's talk about this. All right, so they use for their undo is the Control //. Okay, so let's go here and let's just get rid of this. So let's do a Control W, and then let's undo it with the Control //. Okay, so that also works. I do Control XU, also does it. Keep going down. Oh, here's another one. Control _ is an alternative undo command. Okay, let's try that. Okay, and then Control _ doesn't seem to work. Okay, so that doesn't seem to work for me, but I can do this. Okay, the Control //. A Control XU acts as a repeat count. Okay, so I could undo it multiple times with Control XU. All right, let's talk about files. All right, we already talked about finding a file. We created a file with Control X, Control X, Control F. Okay, we can cancel it with Control G. Save the file, Control X, Control S. And remember, you can hold down the Control key when you're doing this. Okay. Buffers. Okay, so when you find another file, the other buffers stay in Emacs. So let's do Control X, Control B, and we'll see that we've got a scratch file here, We got the themes file that we were going to, the tutorial we're on, this fundamental page. I think when you open up completions, disabled command. So those are our buffers. Now remember, if I want to get rid of this bottom here, my cursor's here, I can do Control X1. Okay. All right, and it actually mentions that right here. Okay. We're talking about foo. I hate when people create a file named foo. Like this whole foo bar thing. All right. Anyways, everyone uses foo and bar in their examples. I can't stand it. Anyways, all right. So pet peeve. All right, Control X S save some buffers. Okay. Having to switch back. So let's try that. Control X S. No files need saving. Oh well, we won't go through that. But if we did, we could save other files because you can go between buffers and have a bunch that aren't saved, and then you could save them with Control X S, not Control X Control S, just Control X S to save multiple. Okay. Okay. So Control X, we extend. Alt X, we extend some command. Okay, so Control Z exits Emacs or suspends Emacs temporarily. Don't really use that much, but you may. Keep going down, auto save. So yeah, so this, I noticed I showed you one of those files in DRED earlier. That's an autosave file. Okay, so it will save every once in a while. Okay, we have this mode line here. We see fundamental tutorials, the name of the file we're in. We're 63% through the file, line 745. So that gives us some information about it. Okay, and I see if we went right by the tutorial, it would be at 749, but I think we deleted something. All right. So that's the buffer line. Major modes, MX text mode. Okay, so yeah, major mode. So when you're creating a file, let's go back to DRED here. Okay, and we note we're at 67%, so we're going to go there. All right, we're going to go back to DRED, and I'm going to start to type the name of this directory. So you see how I did that? I typed TE and hit tab, and it auto-completed this test directory. I'm going to go in here, and if we go to our org file, we notice that we have this thing org. Now, org is the basically the major mode of this file. Now, if I want to go back to DRED here, or I don't even have to do that. I can actually do Control X, Control F, and it says find file, and I'll create a file. And we'll create a file called test.c. Okay, so now we're in this C mode here. All right, so, and you'll see on the menu here, we have C. So we can do a up conditional, backward conditional. We can move up conditionals, that kind of thing in C. Now we could also do Control X, Control F, and do something like test.cpp for C++. And now we're in C++ mode. Okay, so, or we could do Control X, Control F, and do test.py. Now we're in Python. Okay, so we can go through these different modes here. All right, and based on the language, Emacs is going to try and help us out. So it says, can't guess the Python indent offset. We're going to use the default of 4, which is actually what I want because Python, you typically indent 4 spaces. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the tutorial with Control HT and let's revert it. We don't want to mess it up. And let's do Control V till we get down to about 67%. Okay, a little bit further. Okay, All right, so we're back where we went. Okay, so we can pay attention to where we are. Oh, I need to go back here through this tutorial. Okay. So major modes are called major because there's also minor modes. Just minor modifications of them are the minor modes. So, okay, so you have autofill mode for human language text. So if you have text file, it's major mode, it's the TXT. Then the autofill mode might be the minor mode. All right, so we could do Alt X and turn on a minor mode by typing auto. And if I hit tab, it gives me these possible completions. So we have autofill mode. And so now I just clicked on it. It says fundamental, and then I have my minor mode. And you might have noticed when I was in the Python file, I had Python and then eldoc was the minor mode. Okay. And then I had like C++ and something else here was the minor mode. And we hover over it, you see minor mode, major mode, minor mode, major mode, minor mode. Okay. Type Control X F with an argument of 20. Okay. All right. So, okay. And then insert a line of ASDF. All right. ASDF. Okay. Over and over again. ASDF. What are we trying to do? Insert a line of ASDF over again until you see it divide into two lines. Okay. So ASDF, ASDF, ASDF. I don't know. Anyways, that's supposed to be doing something. But okay, we can change the margin with the Control X F command. Control X F. Let's do 20. Fill column set to 20 was 70. All right, so we can go Control X F, set it back to 70 again. Okay. Interesting. All right. Okay, it's more about autofill mode. I can also go up and down with just the arrows as well. So you can use the arrows with inside Emacs, which I'm doing right now. Okay, so Alt Q. That's again with autofill mode. All right, searching. All right, so Control R. We're going to do an I search backward for weight. Hit enter. Oh, and there we go. We found weight. Control S for a forward search. So we'll do an I search here. Let's search for DEL. Hit enter. Oh, there we go. So we search forward. So that's searching. Okay. Control G will terminate the search. So remember, Control G quits. Multiple windows. So move the cursor to this line. Type Control L, Control L. Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, we did that already. Okay, and then I talked about Control X2, Control XO to move around. I already covered that. Control Alt V. Okay, let's do a Control X3, and then we'll do Control Alt V. And okay, and that's moving this around. So we could edit the text around here in the other frame. If you notice, I'm doing Control Alt V to move this around. And now if I want to shut this other window down, I do Control X1. Okay. Okay, so this is just, scrolling it around. All right. If you do not have a meta key, you can use the escape key instead. Most people have an alt key. Control X1, we talked about that. Oh, Control X4. All right, so we'll do Control X4, Control F, find file in other window. Let's do test directory, test.org. Okay, so now we've got our org in our window here. All right, so that was Control X4, Control F to find a file and open it in a separate window. I'm going to do Control XO to move back to this window, and then Control X1 to get rid of the window. Okay. You can also have frames. So we could do Control X5 too, and that gives me another frame here. Okay, and then Control X5 0 removes the frame. Okay, so if you want to open separate frames, recursive editing levels. Okay, so sometimes you will get into what is called a recursive editing level. This is indicated by square brackets in the mode line, surrounded by parentheses around the major mode. For example, you might see fundamental instead of fundamental. To get out of this, type escape, escape, escape. This is the all-purpose get out command. Get out! All right. Okay, so let's do Alt-X. We're in the mini buffer. Then escape, escape, escape. Okay, that gets us out. All right. And we'll keep going down here. Okay, so we can get some more information, saving, escape versus the meta key. Describe a function. Okay, so you can do Control HF to describe a function if you want to. Control HV brings the documentation on variables. Control HA, command purpose. Type in a keyword and Emacs will list all the commands whose name contain the keyword. These commands can all be invoked with meta X. For some commands, command apropos will also list a sequence of one or more characters which runs the same command. Okay. Control H and then a file, hit return. Okay, so let's do that. So we'll do Control H. Let me do Control G. Control H, and then let's do test. No. Control H. And I'm trying to type the file, but it's not letting me. So, okay, so that's something we could do, I guess. Control HI. Read included manuals. So we got the common options, core utils, blah, 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 blah. Finding files, gzip, Emacs fact. Okay. Let's go back to our tutorial. No. Okay. Let's go here. Conclusion. To exit Emacs, use Control X, Control C. All right, so this was their little tutorial. Now let's go back and go back to here. And we've got this page here. We talked about Dear Ed, talked about these basic movements. So again, this is gnu.org software/Emacs/tour. I'll include this in the description below. Again, movements, repeated movements here. Setting a mark, Control Space. Swap point and mark. I don't know if we saw that, but that's something you can do. Okay, region. Mark a region that contains the entire buffer. Okay, so that's something. No. So if I do Control XH, that highlights the entire buffer, and so I can copy it. So If you were doing like competitive coding or something, you wanted to highlight it quickly and paste it in, you do Control X H, and then Alt W, and then paste it into your online editor with just Control V like normal. But killing text, Control K, yanking, we talked about that. Undo, we talked about that. Incremental search, we talked about that. Search and replace, Alt percentage. All right. So let's actually do that. So we'll do Alt %. Query replace. Let's replace edit. Replace edit with Tim. And now we can just hit enter, and we didn't replace anything. But we could replace it if we wanted to, but that might not be a great idea. Okay, regular expression search. Okay, we could do that. Keyboard macros. Oh, we haven't talked about that. All right, so keyboard macros. Let's go here to the start of the line. Let's do F3. How do we start a keyboard macro? Start recording macro. So defining keyboard macro. So let's do Control U3, Alt F, and then type hello. Do Control N and Control A, and then we'll end the macro with F4. And now let's do 3 macros. So let's do Control U3, F4. Okay, and we put hello, hello, hello here. Okay, so that's running macros in Emacs. So that's important actually, because I've used that quite a bit. But it's good to remind yourself. Help with commands, Control HK shows the documentation for a command associated with any particular key. Control HF shows the documentation for any particular command by name. Control HA, search for commands by keywords or regular expression. Now you notice as I'm going through some of these things, I'm like, oh, I forget how to do this or forget how to do that. Emacs is extensive. Right? You're not going to remember everything, but if you remember some of these things, you can, you can use Emacs quite effectively. Okay, so let's talk about this MX shell here. And I'll show you something I like to do. So let's do Control XD. We'll go back to my test directory. I'm just going to type T, hit Tab, go back here, hit G, make sure it's updated. And notice I didn't save those files. So the test.py, the test.c, the test.c++ did not save. But let's now create a test.py. Okay. And we'll create a function that's, let's call it say hello. Notice the syntax highlighting. It's very nice. And then we're just going to print hello here, and we'll go down and we'll return, or actually we'll call the say hello function. I can autocomplete this with Alt /. And so I'm calling the say hello function, very simple Python program. I'm going to do Control X S or Control X, Control S to save it. And you'll notice it says it wrote this file. I'm going to do Control X3 to open up another window here, and then Control XO. Whoops, no, that's not what I want to do. Control X3 to open up a window, then Control XO to move over, and I'm going to do Alt X, and instead of shell, I'm going to type in term, and it gives me the option to run a bash terminal, so I'm going to do that. So I can open a bash terminal here, and I can type Python 3, and then the name of the file, test, and I'll start to type it and hit tab to autocomplete. And then if I run it, it runs the file in the terminal on the other side. Now I can just do Control D to quit out of that. I'll move the mouse over here and just Control X1 to get rid of it. Okay, so that's how you can run programs in Emacs. But you can do a bunch of different shells. You can do E shell. You can do bunch of different things. So GDB, if you have GDB installed, so to install that, I'm not going to install it right now. Let me actually close the settings here. But if I wanted to install stuff for C programming, I could type sudo apt install build-essential, do a space, and then do GDB. So if I had that stuff installed, and again, I'm not going to do this right now, but if I had it installed, I could invoke the GDB, the general debugger in the buffer. You can use grep. Okay, so grep kind of searches through a bunch of stuff. So let me change into my test directory here, show you in the command line. Let's do grep-r for recursive. We'll search for test. And it didn't come up with anything. Grep test, maybe. Anyway, so you can search through stuff. That's not quite working the way I thought. MX man displays man pages, so manual pages. Evoking shells, shell command on a region, or alt, either exclamation or alt. This pipe here would be a shell command on a region. You do version control with, so Emacs supports CVS subversion, bizarre git, and other systems. So you can do version control. This is just an intro to this mega tutorial. So I'm just kind of running through this. It's just kind of like, I'm just going to turn on and start recording here. You're on a server, okay, being unproductive with Emacs. So we could do Tetris, Emacs psychotherapist. Let's check that out. So what do I have to do? I have to do doctor. So Alt X doctor. I am the psychotherapist. Please describe your problems. Each time you're finished, type return twice. I fiddle with Emacs too much and make bad YouTube videos. Enter. Ha! I would appreciate if you would continue. Let me try. I make bad YouTube videos. Why do you say you make bad YouTube videos? Let's see. I basically just turn on the camera and record. Sometimes I don't even include a thumbnail. Okay, return. What makes you believe that? Okay, so anyways, it's going back. Can I control G out of this? Let me get out of here. Let me go back to my test directory, go back to a different file. Let's do Control X B. No, not switch to buffer. I want to do Control X, Control B. Okay, Control X, Control B. This lists my buffers. And you'll see I have Doctor open. Okay, so I have these buffers open. And I have this test.c++, but I haven't saved these. Okay, so anyways, I'll do Control X1 to get out of there. Go back to here. Okay, repeated commands, major modes. We talked all about those. Minor modes, we talked about those. And the mini buffer. Yep. So the mini buffer, just as a reminder, if I do Alt X, now I'm in the mini buffer and I can run commands. I can do escape to get out of there, or just Control G as well. Tips for beginners, panic. No, just Control G. Quits out a lot of stuff. I'm not going to talk about the terminal setup. And then we talk about migration. So again, this is just the start of this mega tutorial that I'm going to do. So Emacs for VI Vim users. So Viper mode. I'm going to talk about evil mode, which is something you install. Let's see if Viper mode is installed. So Alt X, Viper mode. Okay. Okay, so Viper emulates VI. Excuse me. It supports all of what is good in VI and X while extending and improving on much of it. Okay. Inhibit Viper startup message. Yes. Okay. So now am I in? Okay. So let's go here. Oh, specify your level. Let's do 1. Okay. No, I don't want it permanent, but okay. So let's hit enter. Okay. So now I'm going J, K, L, and H. So I'm in Viper mode. So, and then, I can insert. This is inserting. So, okay. So maybe you just want to use Viper mode and, not do the master level, but you can do escape. So, okay, cool. Woo. I've got Vim inside of Emacs. Sweet. With Viper mode. There's also evil mode, but that's something you need to install. Anyways, so I hope this was a good start. I kind of went around and bounced around some of the resources. I'll include these resources in the description for this video. I hope you found this interesting. We're going to continue with Emacs. I've done some longer tutorials on it. I'm going to put some new stuff where we cover some of the new things with Emacs. If you like this video, please give it a like. And if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing, as it really does help the channel grow. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you. Hi, Tim Unkert here, and welcome to my Mega Emacs tutorial part 2. First thing I want to do is we have this nice white theme, but I'd like to change to a darker theme, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So what I'm going to do is Meta X or Alt X and type in Customize Option, and I'm going to start to type Package and then Enable at Startup, and I want to make sure this is turned on, so I'm going to toggle on and click Apply and Save. Now I'm going to type Alt X and do the up arrow to get back to Customize Option. And I'm going to type Package and do a dash. And I want to do down here Package Archives. So I can click on this if I want. And I'm going to insert a package archive. And one great repository for packages is Melpa. So I'm going to type Melpa. And let's go to Melpa, actually. So we'll type Melpa here. And go to Melpa, and I'll make this a little larger for you. So we can see that Melpa is Milky Postman's Emacs Lisp package archive. Okay, and let's go and click on Getting Started here. And we can add this in a .emacs file, or we could just take this address right here, just copy this. And what we can do is go back here and paste this URL right here with Control Y. I'm going to click Apply and Save. Okay. Now to refresh my packages, I'm going to do an Alt X and do Package List Packages and hit Enter. And that's going to go ahead, and you see it's loading here. So it's fetching the packages, including the packages now from Melpa, because we changed that option. Okay, the package refresh is done, and maybe I want to go find what a good Emacs theme is. So I'm going to search here for Emacs themes. Okay, and notice Unkert Media has some themes here. So let's scroll down and find Unkert Media. Okay, I'm not on the first page of Google yet, so need to get there. Let's see. On the third page, I think. Maybe. Here we go. 37 Emacs themes to try. Let's click on this. Okay. And we've got a bunch of themes here that I've listed on my blog. Dracula, that looks nice. Material, that looks nice. Mac Classic, VS Code Plus, Monokai, Darkula, Cobalt 2. There's a ton of themes we can choose from. okay? Bad wolf, if you want. And let's go up here and do Dracula, okay? So now my package refresh is done. So I can do an Alt-X and list package. I can type the command Alt-X and then package install. And that's going to take a moment. And we can type Dracula. And if I hit tab, it completes it, Dracula theme. Okay, and so we have the Dracula theme now. So I can do Alt-X and do customize themes. And I can go down here to Dracula and hit enter. And it's going to ask me if I really want to load this file. I'm going to say Y for yes. Treat this theme as safe in future sessions. I'm also going to say Y for yes. And it's going to load that Dracula theme that I now have. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to do Control-XD and go to Dear Ed. Now that I've got my theme, and I'm going to create a new directory called Emacs Tutorials. To do that, I'm just going to hit the plus sign, but I have to do Shift and hit the plus sign because we have the plus and the equals below it. So I'm going to do Shift plus. You see down here, it gives me a directory. I can create it. I'm going to do Emacs, and I'm going to do snake case. I'm going to do underscore tutorials. I've been doing a lot of Ruby lately, so in Ruby and Python, getting used to that snake case. Anyways, I'm going to click on this directory, and we have no files in it. So the first file I want to create is called Getting Started Commands. And these files that I create are going to be org files. I'm posting them to a GitHub repository. I will leave a link in the description for that. All right, so to create a file, I'm going to find file. So I'm going to do Control-X, Control-F, and then I'm going to name the file. And we want to name it Getting _started _commands, and we're going to do .org. Because Emacs is famous for its org mode. Now, we're not going to really use much org fundament. We're not going to use much org functionality right yet, but we want to start getting used to creating org files because that's one of the great things about Emacs. Okay, I'm going to make a simple heading, which is done with an asterisk, and I'm going to say commands to get started. And notice this is a pretty sweet theme, right? It's got that nice Dracula look to it. And before we get started, when we talk about the commands, the control key, we're going to signify that with a C and a dash, okay? And then the alt key, or the meta key, we're going to signify that with an M and a dash. And you know what I'm going to do before we get going any further is I'm going to up the font a little bit. I've already upped it a bit, but I think I'm going to up it a bit more so you can just see it a bit better. Now to get my menu back, I'm going to do Meta X or Alt X, and I'm going to type in toggle menu, and then I'm going to hit a tab and it goes toggle menu bar mode from frame. I'm going to do that. I'm going to click on options here. Go to set default font. You'll see I'm at size 20. And let's really make that big. Let's make it 28 so you can see it. And let's select it. Okay, that's looking a lot better. And just so I can save this, I'm going to save this in case I shut it down and want to start it back up in the video. I'm going to do an Alt X and hit the up arrow key and click toggle menu bar mode from frame to just remove the menu bar. So we don't have to see it. We can get used to these commands. Okay, the first command, which we just used to create this file, is called find file. And I'm just doing these arrow keys to kind of go from the description of the command to the actual command itself. And to do that command, you're going to do Control X, Control F. Okay. And we can also do a find file and autocomplete the file name by doing Control X, Control F, and then we start to type the file name and hit tab, okay? And that will autocomplete it. Okay, so that's a handy trick. We can also, in Emacs, insert a file into another file, okay? And let's demonstrate that. So to do that, we're gonna do Control X and then I for insert. So let's save this one. Let's do a Control X, Control F. So we're going to be creating a file in the same directory, and we'll call this test.org. And in this file, say this is a test. It's not meant for much more than that. I want to insert this into another file. Okay, I'm going to save this one, and I'm going to do Control X, Control F again to get back to my previous file, and I'm going to start to type. So I'm going to type GE and hit Tab, and that auto completes it like we talked about. All right, so now it's going to bring me back this file, and let's go right here and let's do a Control X I, and then we're going to start to type the name test and hit Tab to autocomplete. And look at that. We've inserted the file, that other file, into this file. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff right there. Okay, so now let's say I wanted to save this file, and I've been saving files. So how am I doing that? Well, save file is going to be Control X, Control S. Okay, that's to save the file. Now let's say I wanted to work on this file, but I didn't have permissions to save it, and I wanted to make a copy. Well, there's a command for that as well, and that's called write file. And to write the file, what we need to do is do Control X, Control W. That will write the file to another copy. Okay, so let's put in parentheses, this creates another version of the file. Okay, all right. Now let's say I wanted to find a file, but I typed in the wrong file name, and I want to find an alternative file. So there's a command for that as well. It's called find alternative file, and the keyboard shortcut for that is Control X, Control V. All right, so we can find an alternative file with this file. Now let's say I'm tired of Emacs and I want to quit. So I'm going to quit Emacs with Control X, Control C. Okay. Let's save. So we're saving it, and let's do a Control X, Control C. Okay, we quit out of Emacs. And look at this, we're on Unqrt Media. You should check out uncrtmedia.com, as it's a great site. Shameless plug. Okay, anyways, so I'm going to bring back up Emacs, and I didn't save my theme. Okay, so let's get back my Dracula theme. So I'm going to go to Customize Theme, and I'm going to go back down here and hit Enter. And then I'm going to go up to Save Theme Settings, and you'll see my cursor. I hope we can see that. It's right here. I'm going to click Enter. And it says, now my themes are saved for future sessions. Cool. All right. I've got the menu back, so I'm going to toggle, and I hit Tab because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I hit toggle dash menu. I'm going to hit Tab, and it's going to autocomplete it. I'm going to hit Enter. Now I've got that menu out of the way. And let's go back to Dear Ed. So Control X D to get back to Dear Ed. And let's go back to my Emacs tutorials. And I want to go back to my gettingstartingcommands.org. So I'm going to go hit that. And I now notice only the headline. To expand this, I'm going to hit Tab. Okay. So we're back. All right. So we just quit Emacs, but that was a mistake. We want to go back into Emacs. And let's say we want to get help. And we talked about this in the video yesterday. Hopefully you saw that. If not, check it out. It's right before this video. To get help, we're going to do a Control H. Okay, so that gets us help. We did that yesterday. Let's not talk too much about it. Okay, one thing we can get specific help on is describing a key. Okay, and to do that, we're going to do Control H and then K. Okay, an example of this would be Control H and then K and then Control X I. Okay. So let's actually try that. So Control H, K, and Control X, I. Okay, and it brings up the command in this bottom window. So Control X, I runs the command insert file, which we did, which is an interactive compiled list function in files.el. So it tells you where it is. It is bound to Control X, I. Okay, so we can also do the menu insert file. Okay, so we went through that one, but this describes it in case we didn't know what it was about. Now I'm up here. Now let's say I want to get back to only one window. I'm going to do Control X1. Okay, that's going to bring me back to my 1X window and close that help menu. All right, So another thing we can get help with is finding a function. So find a function. And to do that, we're going to do the key combination Control H and then F. For example, what we could do is Control H, F, and then type find file. And that's going to give us help on finding files. So I'm going to save this with Control X, Control S, and I'm going to do Control H, F, and I'm going to type in find file. Hit enter, and it brings up the description of the function find file. It's bound to Control X, Control F. It's also in files.el, okay? And it tells you a little bit about it. Again, I can get rid of this window by doing Control X1, and that brings me back down to the window I'm currently in. Okay, so let's write that down. So Control X1, or let's do the description first. So show only one window. That's Control X1, okay? All right, another couple things we can do with the help, which we talked about yesterday, is Control H and T for the Emacs tutorial. And we can also do Control H and I to browse the manuals. All right, so if we want to browse the help manuals, we can do that. I don't know why I put this in parentheses. Let's follow my standard format here that I was doing. So Control HT gives you the Emacs tutorial. Control HI allows you to browse manuals. All right, let's now open a different file. So I'm going to do Control X, Control F. And I want to call this file editing because we're going to talk about basic editing. So we're going to do Control X, Control F. We'll call this editing.org, okay? And we're going to create a little headline here. This is editing commands, okay? And I want to make a note that after each of these commands, we're going to press enter, okay? So if I don't type it specifically, we'll press enter. So the first one, do MX, Alt-X, refill mode, okay? And this keeps paragraphs neat while editing them, okay? Okay, we can also do MX auto -fill -mode, which is another formatting mode, formatting minor mode, okay? And we can do Alt-Q to fill a paragraph. And let's try this out. Okay, and so I'm going to do Alt-Q. Okay, and notice how the paragraph filled. Now I want to undo that though, because it's not the formatting that I want, but notice what that does. So Alt-Q will fill the paragraph. Now, if I want to undo it, I can do Control-X-U, and that undoes that, okay? So I want to make a note. To undo, we do Control-X-U. That is undoing something. Okay. We can also do Alt-X. Another command is paragraph indent text mode. Okay. And we can do, so that's another paragraph editing. Now we talked about some of these movement commands. So let's talk about movement commands again and just make a list of them. So we're going to do Control P, which will move up a line. Control F, which will move down a line. Okay, so I could do Control P and, sorry, Control N to move down a line. My bad here. So Control P moves up, Control N moves down. Okay, to move to the end of the line like I just did, I did Control E to move to the end of the line. To move to the start of the line, I can do Control A to move to the start of the line. If I only want to move forward one character, I can do Control F to move forward one character. To move back one character, I can do Control B. That moves back one character. Okay. To move forward a word, I can do Alt F. That will move forward one word. To move back one word, I can do Alt B to move back one word. Okay. To repeat a command, I can do Control U and then N as a number and then some command. This will repeat the command N times. Okay, so if I did something like Control U 10, Control P, I'm going to move up 10 lines. So let's try that. So Control U 10, Control P. Oh, I moved up 10 lines. Now I'll do Control U 10, Control N to move down 10 lines. Okay, the more you practice this stuff, the better you will get at it. All right. To move to the end of a file, I'm going to do the Alt and then the, while holding down the Alt, do the greater than. So that's going to move to the end of the file. Okay. And then move to the beginning of the file, I'm going to do the less than. So this will move to the beginning of the file. Okay, so when I'm doing this, like to move to the beginning of the file, I'm going to do Alt Shift and then the button with the comma on it because it has the less than symbol when you hit Shift. So Alt Shift, comma moves me to the beginning of the file, and Alt Shift period moves me to the end of the file. Okay, to go to a line in the file, I can do Alt G, and then type the number of the line and hit enter. Okay, so let's do Alt G, Alt G, go to line. I hit Control G. But Alt G, you see we go to line. Let's go to line 5. And look at that, we're on line 5. Okay, so we can quickly go to a line. All right, I'm going to go back with Alt Shift period to the end of the document so far, and I'm going to center it with Control L, which we talked about yesterday. Okay, we talked about moving to the end of the line, but we can also move to the end of the sentence with Alt E. So this is moving to the end of the sentence. So let's try this. This is a sentence. This is also a sentence. Okay, so if I want to move back, it would follow that I would do Alt B to move to the beginning of a sentence. Okay, so let's go here and we'll do Alt B. Okay, not Alt B, that moves back a word. Sorry, Alt A. Okay, so if we do Alt A, now notice it moves back and it skips here. Why is that? Well, let's add another space here and we'll do move to the end of the line and do Alt A. Oh, so the sentence has to have 2 spaces after the period for Emacs to respect that as a sentence. Okay, so let's make note of that. Okay, the sentence must contain 2 spaces after the period to be able to move back to the beginning or move forward to the end of the sentence. Now notice in org mode, it doesn't wrap like text mode, which is a difference, but you can control the behavior too. And with these spaces, you can also control the behavior, but maybe you want to do it with 2 spaces to kind of separate your sentences. That's the way Emacs does it by default, which is more the older style, but there's arguments about this online. I'm not going to get into that now, but just let you know that that's the way Emacs does it. Okay. All right. Let's see. So we talked about, let's talk about moving forward a paragraph. So to move forward a paragraph, we're going to do Alt and then the curly brace here. This moves forward one paragraph. To move back one paragraph, we do the Alt and the other curly brace. So moves back one paragraph. Okay. And we can also move forward and back page breaks. All right. So Control X and then the closing square bracket, that will move forward one page, okay, to the next page break. Now, Control X and the opening square bracket will move back one page, okay? Well, you may be wondering, well, how do I make a page break? And let me do Control L to recenter this, okay? So a page break is noted by a page delimiter. So you really have to make a page delimiter to break pages. The way you can do that is do Control Q, Control L. And you see this little caret and the L? This is a page delimiter, okay? So this is the next page, okay? So if I want to move back, I'm going to do Control X and the closing or the opening square bracket, okay? If I'm up here and I want to move to the end of the page, I'm going to do Control X and the closing square bracket, okay? Notice my cursor goes down to that page delimiter, all right? To move down a screen, we talked about this yesterday in the tutorial, but Control V moves down the screen or down a screen, and Alt V moves up a screen, okay? All right, we can also go to a line. We can do Alt X and type in go to line and just hit enter. And then we can go to a line. Let's say we want to go to line 5 again. Boom, we're at line 5. Okay, if I want to go to the end of the document, I'm going to do Alt Shift period and move me right back there. So MX or Alt X, and then the command go to line and press enter. That will bring you to a line. And we also have one MX go to CHAR for go to character and hit enter. Okay, let's do Control L to center that. And if we want to repeat a command, we've shown that we can do it with Control U, N, and then the command, or we can do Alt N and then the command. Okay, so I could do Alt 5, Control P to move up 5 lines. That's a quick way to do it. Now, if you're doing it a lot of lines, you still have to hold down the Alt key while you type in the number. So I could do Alt 20, Control P, and that moves up 20 lines. Now, if I do Alt Shift period, that moves me right back down to the end of the document. So that's some stuff to practice that you can move around. Now, I've been talking about Control L to recenter. Let's actually do that. Control L, that recenters the page at the cursor. Okay. And let's make another page break. So that's Control K or Control Q, Control L. So Control Q, Control L, that breaks another page. All right, so to delete a word, we can do Alt D. And what this does is it's the command for kill word, which deletes a word. That puts it in the kill ring. Okay. Likewise, Control D is something that kills a character or deletes a character and puts it in the kill ring. Control K kills a line or deletes a line. And then Alt and then hyphen and then Control K. So we want to do Alt and then the hyphen and then Control K. What that does is delete from the beginning of the line to the cursor. So this deletes from the beginning of the line to the cursor. Okay, so let's move back a few words here to we're at line. So let's try that. So we'll do Alt hyphen Control K. Okay, and you notice, look at that. We've got line to the cursor. So it deleted everything before that. Now to bring it back, I'm just going to undo it. So I'm going to do Control XU and I'm going to undo that. All right. Okay, let's do Control E to go to the end there. Okay, like I talked about killing. Let's just say killing text in Emacs puts deleted text into the kill ring. Okay, and then you can copy it and you can do something by pasting it with Control Y, which stands for yank. Okay, so we get back, what we deleted. Now to make a mess of this, let's go here and let's do Alt-Control K. We deleted that to the beginning of the line. We're going to go Control End here and then do a yank. And then we see here, puts deleted text into the kill ring, and it's counting the line above it as part of this line. So it deleted this whole thing here and moved it down here. So that doesn't really make sense. So let's undo it, do a couple undos, and we'll get it back to where we were, okay? All right, to demonstrate some of this, I'm first gonna do Control L to recenter, and I'm gonna do line 1, line 2, line 3, and line 4. And what we're gonna do is go through some commands here. So what I could do is Control U, 4, Control P, and that's gonna move up 4 lines. And then after that, maybe what I should do is then Control A to move to the beginning of the line, then Control U, okay, Control U, and then 4, and Control K. That's going to kill 4 lines. And then we'll do a Control Y, and we'll just paste them back, okay? So let's do a Control U, 4, Control P, and then Control A, Control U, 4, Control K, and then a Control Y. And we've brought it all back, okay? So that's a way you can get used to manipulating text. And if you want to get good at editing in Emacs, you should try exercises like this, okay? All right, let's go to the end of this line here with Control E. And we'll talk about cutting. So cutting in Emacs, you can do Control W, which is cut. And you can paste, again, which is yanking. Control Y is paste, called yanking. It's different than in Vim, okay? We can also, let's do a Control L to recenter. We can also mark and cut. So we can mark and cut, okay? So let's create some more text. So this is the first line, line 2, line 3. This is the last line. Now to set the mark, okay, to set the mark, we're going to do Control Space or Control and the @ symbol, okay? So then what we're going to do is we're going to highlight all the items that we want to cut, then do Control W to cut, then Control Y to repaste. Again, this is an exercise. We're trying to get better at Emacs. So I'm going to do Control Shift 2 to set the mark, and then Control P will move it up. Look at that nice Dracula theme. It puts what I'm marking in yellow, and Control A to get to the start of the line. We'll do Control W to cut it. Now it's in the kill ring, and we'll paste it back with Control Y. Look at that. Pretty nice. Okay. To kill a word backwards, you would do Alt and Delete. Is Alt and Delete, and this is the actual delete key. Now, it's interesting, the behavior on a Chromebook, if you do Alt and then the backspace, that's a bit different. So let's do that. So Alt and the backspace, it's not doing anything on this, but if we do, Alt and Shift in the backspace, my bad. Alt and Shift in the backspace, look at that. It cuts all that stuff out. So it cuts out a region here. Now to bring that back, I'm just going to undo it. So I'm going to do Control XU, okay? So that's a little bit different on a Chromebook there. Okay, what else do I want to talk about here? Exchanging the point in the mark. So Control X will exchange the point and the mark. Okay, so let's set the mark. This time I'm going to do it with Control Space. So the mark is set. You can see it down here. It says mark set. I'm going to highlight this stuff, move all the way up here and do Control A. And now my point is right here. Okay, so I'm going to do Control X, and now my point is right here. Now, if I want to escape out of this highlighting, I can just do Control G. Okay, Control G quits a lot, as we talked about in the previous video. Okay, we can also, let's do a Control L to recenter. We can also basically copy text without deleting it. And that we do with Alt W. So this copies text without deleting it. Okay. And we can do a yank pop. Okay, so a yank pop that will run after a Control Y. It yanks the previous yank. Okay, so I don't use this much, but this one is Alt Y. It's called yank pop. And after Control Y, it yanks the previous yank. Okay. All right. So again, Control W or MW will copy to the, Control W copy or cuts the text. MW copies the text, but it's going to also copy it to the clipboard. Okay, so the system clipboard. All right. Another one, Control T. This transposes two letters. So let's create my name here, and I'm going to go here and do Control T. And look at that. And then Control T, and look at that. And then Control T. Ooh, and then maybe move back here and Control T, and I've clearly messed up my name. It's moved it over and transposed it with the space. But that's what Control T does. All right. M or Alt T transposes two words. Okay, so let's go back here and do Alt T, and look at that. Two transposes words, Alt T, two words transposes. Okay, so you get the point there. And let's just whoops, I didn't want to do that. Let me do Control G, get out of there, and go to the end here. Okay. All right. Control X, Control T transposes two lines. So let me move up a line. Let's kill this blank space, and let's do a Control X, Control T, and look at that. We've swapped the lines. Now, if I do it again, it transposes them back. Okay, so that's a cool shortcut. We can also transpose sentences. Let's do a Control L to recenter. So we can do an Alt X and then type in transpose sentences just transpose sentences and hit enter. So let's try this. So this is sentence one. Okay, just leave one space. Let's see. This is sentence two. Okay, now let's just move somewhere here. We'll do Alt X transpose sentences. And we probably need to be here. So let's do Alt X. And it's not doing it. Okay, let's do a space. Okay, now let's do it. Now they switch. So again, remember, we need two spaces between sentences. Now you can change this, but this is the default Emacs behavior. Okay, we can also do Alt X to transpose paragraphs. So we can do Alt X and then type in the command transpose paragraphs and hit enter. Okay, we can capitalize the letter under the cursor. So we can do that with Alt C. So this will capitalize the letter under the cursor. Okay, so if I have Tim here and I want to go back and I need to capitalize this, I can do Alt C and capitalize that word. Okay, we can also we can make the whole word uppercase with Alt U. So this will upcase, is the way they describe it, upcase the word. So let's do Tim here. I'll go back and I'll do Alt U, and that upcases the word. We can also do Alt L to downcase the word. So let's say I have Tim here, go back one, do Alt L, and that's still lowercase. Well, let's do an uppercase. Okay, we'll go back one, Alt L, and it's now lowercase. Let's do a Control L to recenter. Okay. We can also go into overwrite mode. Okay. And to do that, we can do Alt X, type in the command overwrite -mode, and hit enter. Okay. So let's go to the beginning of this line with Control A. We'll do an Alt X, overwrite -mode, hit enter, and start typing. I am now in overwrite mode. Sweet. To get out of overwrite mode, we can do Alt X, hit the up arrow key to bring back the previous command, just run overwrite mode again, hit enter, and you'll see overwrite mode disabled in the current buffer. Okay. We can revert the buffer, and we can do this with Alt X, revert buffer, and hit enter. Okay. And we can recover a file with Alt X and type in the command recover file and hit enter. Okay. Let's do a Control L to recenter. I want to talk about a few more things, and then I'll stop this part of the mega tutorial where we're at. Okay, so we can also go into the menu. We can do CUA mode. Okay, now in CUA mode, this is much more like what you're familiar with other systems. So Control C is copy, Control X is cut, and Control V is paste. Okay, so now to get to that, I could toggle the menu mode. So I could toggle menu bar mode from frame. And if we go into options here, and see it's right here, use CUA keys. Now, if I check this, this will go into CUA mode. So it's cut, paste with Control X, Control C, Control V. Okay. I'm not going to do that, but that is an option. Okay. And then the last thing I want to talk about in this video is displaying line numbers. So if I want line numbers in my document, what I can do is Alt X, and I can type in global display and then line, and I'll start to type it out and hit tab. So it's global -display -line -numbers -mode. If I hit enter, we get line numbers in the document. Pretty sweet. You can write that into the .emacs file also. Maybe I'll talk about that in a future video. But for right now, I'm going to end this part of the mega tutorial where I'm at. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, could you please give it a like, as it will help get out to more people. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you. Hi, Timothy Unger here. In this video, I'm going to cover some of the spell check options available in Emacs. You'll see on the upper left-hand corner, I have a buffer open called spelling.txt. This is the file we're going to use for most of our spell checking. In the lower left-hand corner, I have a file called spelling.c. This is a C file where I've spelled the word name as new. So we're going to use that as a program to spell check. And then on the right-hand side, I have a markdown buffer called spelling.markdown, where I have the things that we're going to cover in today's lesson. I'll include links to those in the description below in case you want to follow along that way. You can download them from GitHub. Okay, so let's get started. So if we look at the upper left-hand corner here, if we look at this file, we have a lot of spelling errors. We have this made-up name, Didonius. He's a good speller. And then we have Billy Wood if he could. You notice it loops down. But as hard as he tried, he couldn't spell very well. He went to the spelling doctor, but couldn't figure out what his problem was. This is some seriously bed spelling. Now, I included bed because bed is misspelled, but there are limitations with this Emacs spell checker because bed is a word. It's not going to pick up on that. But then we have but that's okay. I would change all the occurrences of would if I could. Okay. So we've got a lot of spelling errors here. So one thing I can do is I can do Alt X to run a command, and I can type in iSpell buffer. Now, keep in mind, you have to have iSpell installed to do this. And I'll talk about how you install iSpell near the end of this lesson in case you need to know how to install it. At least I'll talk about it for a Chromebook. All right, so I'm going to hit enter here, and it's going to give me the choices here. Now, Didonius, I already, let me spell that a little bit differently, because when I was going through and warming up, I actually said accept this in the dictionary, so it's not picking up on that. But if I change the name slightly, it will. Okay, so I can go through, I can press 0, 1, 2, or 3. If I press 3, it's going to fix it. Now I can go through, I can press 0, 1, 2. I'm going to press 1 because I want CULD to be could. So that changes that. I can press 4 for this one because I want TRID to be tried. Okay, I can go through and press 3 for this one because I want SPUL to be spell. This one I'm going to press 8 because I want VERRY to be very. Okay, and then it's going to go down. All right, so this next one, spelling, I'm going to press 2 for spelling. Dactyr, I'm going to press 1 for doctor. It only gives me one option here, which is the one I want, so I'm going to press 0. And then I can press 0 again because we only give one option. 0 again because we only have one option. Seriously, 0 again, only one option. And then for this one, I'd press 2 for spelling. Thits, I want that to be that, so I'm going to press 4. And would, I want to press 3. And then occurrences, I'd press 0. Again, I'd press 3 for would, and then 1 for could. Okay, and we've gone through and we've fixed the spelling errors. Now I'm going to do Alt-X and revert my changes here. So we'll go back to the spelling errors. Revert buffer. That's what I meant to type. Okay, I'm going to say yes, and all those spelling errors are going to come back. Now, if I spelled this Did Ionius as a name, or Didionius. Let's save that. And now if I run the iSpell buffer here, it's going to come up with a correction. Now, I can choose to insert this into my dictionary. I've already inserted Didonius into my dictionary. Now, I can insert it with I, and that'll insert it with a uppercase D, or I can insert it with U, and that would just insert it with a lowercase d. But since this is a proper name, I'll insert it with I. Okay, so now it inserts Didionius, and then we go back to our spelling. Now, one thing, if I want to quit out of my spelling, I can do Control G, and that's going to, now it's going to ask me, my personal dictionary is modified. Do I want to save that? I'm going to say no, because I don't want Didionius in there. So I'm going to say no. And then it quits out of iSpell. But we can run iSpell continue. Hit tab. We can do continue here. We'll see, hit tab, it gives you the options with C. So I'm going to do continue and hit enter. And now it's going to go right back to my spelling check. I can also do Alt-X, or I can do actually Control-G to get out of here, and then do Alt-X and iSpell, and we have kill iSpell. So it's not going to even run in the background. So, okay, so iSpell process is now killed, so I can get out of that. Another thing I can do is if I want to check just a particular region, I could do Control-Shift-2 to start highlighting the region, or Control-Space, and go highlight my region, and then do Alt-X, and then iSpell and region, and it would go through and start checking the region. So I could change this to spelling, I could change this to doctor, and I'm basically just changing this sentence. I'll show you. And we go through, and so we've gone through and we've changed that sentence. Now I'm going to go and actually revert the buffer. So go back to my bad spelling and save it. Okay. We can also use iSpell to check a program, because like printf is going to be something, if we just check that with iSpell, printf would come up as being spelled wrong. But if I go down, let me do Control-X-O to move down to this buffer down below, the C program, you'll say, printf would, like I said, it would throw an error. But we might want to check like the comments in the string. So in this case, I have a string. My name is Tim. It should say my name is Tim. So I want to check the string. So I can run a command. I can do ispell comments and strings. And I'm going to run that, and it's going to now say, okay, Noom is not a word, so we'll give you some suggestions. I'm going to pick 2 for name, and that's run through, and it's ignored the printf. It's ignored the hashtag include, studio.h, and those kind of things. So it's only checked either the comments that we have or the strings. Now I could show you this again. Let's go up here. Let's make a comment and say something like, this is a comment. I'll spell that wrong. All right. And then again, I can run ispell comments in strings, and it says, hey, you probably meant to spell comment. So I could say, this is a comment. Okay, I fixed that. So I'm going to say that file is fixed. Actually, let me refix this, because we're going to use something with fly spell in a moment. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, let me say this is messed up again. Okay, another thing we can do, let me go back to this top buffer here, and we'll see here I reverted the changes. So I reverted this region. So, but I know I'm looking at this spelling. I know I spelled that wrong. So what I can do is do Alt-Shift-4, Alt $, really, Alt $, and I can just check the word and then go, oh, I wanted to spell the word as spelling. So I can hit 2, and that fixes that word. So it just checks the one word. But I want to revert my changes here. Go back, revert my buffer. I keep doing that. Revert buffer. Okay, I'm going to type yes. I want those spelling errors back so we can check them with fly spell. Okay, I'm going to do ispell kill ispell here, and I've killed the ispell process. And what I'm going to do now is check fly spell, or run fly spell mode, which is checking spelling on the fly. All right, hence the word fly. All right, so I'm going to just do Alt-X and then fly spell mode. Okay, and so it's starting to run. Now, if I start to go, it's going to start to show me, oh, as I move down these lines, oh, there's a bunch of spelling errors here as I go. So you'll see, I hope you can see this on the video. If it's spelled wrong more than once, like spelling, it's going to underline it in yellow. If it's only spelled incorrectly once, it's going to underline it in red. So I could say, I made let's do comment. Okay, so it's like, hey, comment's wrong. Let's underline that. So that's fly spell mode. Now I can turn that off by just doing fly spell mode like that. And now it's disabled. The red and the yellow goes away. And I can actually go down to the lower buffer here, and I can do something similar called fly spell PROG, or for programming mode. And I can do Alt-X and do fly spell prog mode. And as we move, we see that Noom now here is underlined in red because it knows that it's spelled incorrectly. Now to turn off fly spell programming mode, we actually do Alt-X and then just type fly spell mode. We don't actually type fly spell programming mode. Okay, so that turns it off. Okay, we can also do fly spell for a buffer. So I can do Control-X-O to move over here, and Control-X-O to move up top. I can do Alt-X and then type in fly spell buffer. And it's going to run through, and you see it's highlighted all the spelling errors in red. Okay. There are, in fact, a lot of, let me turn off fly spell mode here. Okay, nope, I gotta turn it off. Let's fly spell mode. Okay, so now I disabled it. You can also let's do Control Space to mark a region here, and we'll mark this region here, and I'll do Alt-X and then fly spell, and then I want to hit Tab to see what I can do, and there's a bunch of different things I can do. I can do autocorrect word, I can do all kinds of things, go to next error, fly spell word, but I want to do fly spell region. So I'm going to do that. And it's going to go through and highlights all the stuff in the region. Now, if I run fly spell mode and then turn it off, then it turns it off for the region, okay? Now, you can also do fly spell word or autocorrect word. But one other cool thing you can do with fly spell before I show you that is, let's say I know this word is wrong. I can click on here and then click with the middle button of my mouse, so the wheel. And that messed up. Let me undo that. I'll try that again. Nope. Okay, that's not working. Sorry. Let me try. That's not working for some reason. Okay, it was working before. You know why it's not working? Because I haven't enabled fly spell mode. So let me go here and revert the buffer here because I turned it off. Okay, so now let me go back. Let me turn on fly spell mode here. And let me go here and click on it. Okay, so now that fly spell mode is on, it's working. Now I can scroll down and insert a different word. So I can do spelling, okay, and changes it to spelling. I can do the same thing here. Let's click on that. Okay, I want couldn't. Okay, so that's the middle mouse button, which is the wheel. If you click on the wheel, you can go and it's still doing that. Okay, so maybe it's going to go, oh, here are the words. Also, if you have a word that you want to enter that is like a proper name, you can click save word there. Okay, that one's, as you can see, it's a little finicky. Anyway, so let's revert the buffer back to our spelling errors there. Okay, so we reverted the buffer. Another thing I can do with fly spell autocorrect world is I can do, let's see, Alt-X, fly spell mode. Let's turn that on. It's enabled now in the current buffer. I can do Control-Alt-I, and it cycles through, every time I do Control-Alt-I, it cycles through these suggestions on the bottom, which is, it's basically running fly spell autocorrect world, okay? So I can cycle through those with Control-I. So I can go, is it that word? No, I want spelling, okay? Let's go forward to the next word, Control-Alt-I. Is it actor? No, it's doctor, okay? Let's go forward here. I know this word is wrong. Let's do Control-Alt-I. Okay. So Control-Alt-I, that's fly spell autocorrect word. That's pretty helpful. Anyways, there's a lot of different things you can do with iSpell and FlySpell. You can check them out if I want to. Let me turn off FlySpell here. Okay, so it's disabled. Now, if I go iSpell, type in iSpell, and I can see, oh, I can do iSpell buffer. I can change the dictionary. I can do comment and strings. I can do complete word interior fragment. This one, messages for email, minor mode region, buffer, check version, complete word, continue, minor check. So we've only covered a small amount. Now, if I want to instead look at fly spell, I have all these ones I can do with fly spell as well. Okay, final thing before I end the video, I did mention, let me just get down to one buffer here. I did mention I was going to show you how to install iSpell, which you need iSpell for to use iSpell, obviously, and to use FlySpell. Now, this is how I do it on a Chromebook. So I'm going to do Alt-X. Oops, I didn't want to do Alt-X. Sorry, Control-X1. Let me do that. I'm going to do Alt-X and then open up a terminal, okay, a bash terminal. All I do to install, let me go to my home directory, is type sudo apt install iSpell, okay? And I'm going to hit enter. It's already installed for me, so it's not going to install anything. But so that's how you install it on a Chromebook, very easily. It just goes through sudo apt install iSpell. Make sure you spell that correctly. Otherwise, you're going to get file not found or another error. But that's pretty much it for some of the spelling options that I want to cover in Emacs. As you can see, there's tons of options. I believe there's another one called A spell. I didn't cover that, so you can explore that one if you want. But iSpell and FlySpell are pretty good for checking for errors in your spelling. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, as it will help get out to more people. I want to thank you for watching, and I do hope to see you in the next one. Have a great day. Hi, Timothy Unkert here. In this video, we're going to talk about Emacs abbreviation mode. We're going to talk about how we can use it for programming, how we could use it for checking spelling or correcting spelling errors rather, and how we can use it to take acronyms and span them into our full word expansion for the acronym. Okay, so to turn on abbreviation mode, you're going to do Alt-X or Meta-X, and you're going to type ABB abbrev-mode. Hit enter. And you'll see that you get the message abbrev mode enabled in the current buffer. Okay, so if I want to expand an abbreviation, I first have to define the abbreviation. So if I type CIA and I want to hit a space and expand that to Central Intelligence Agency, well, nothing's going to happen at this point. I have to define an abbreviation. So if I want to add a global abbreviation, I can do Control-X, either A or dash or AIL. For AIL is local. I messed that up. I'll fix that on my Markdown document. AIG is global. Let's do a global one. So let's do Control-X, AIG. And at the bottom here, it's going to say, what's the global expansion for CIA? And I'm going to type Central Intelligence Agency and hit enter. And it's going to expand it. So CIA is now if I type CIA and hit a space, it expands it. Okay. CIA is the Central Intelligence Agency. Yeah. So that's how you add them. Now, if I wanted to add a local one, let's say FBI, and I would do Control-X, AIL for local. And it just says mode expansion for FBI. That's the Federal Bureau of Intelligence, I think that's what it stands for. So, or maybe it's investigation. Anyway, so I can do that. I can also, let's say I want to type Federal Bureau of Investigation. Let me edit that. So let's edit my abbreviations here. And we have Federal Bureau of Intelligence. That's the first abbreviation. So let me go forward here. I think that's supposed to be Federal Bureau of Investigation. So let's change this to investigation here. And now let's do Control-X, Control-S to save that. You notice it saves it in the .emacs.d folder. Okay, let's do Control-XD to get back to Dear Ed, and let's go back to editing. We were editing the text file here. So let's actually mark this region. We'll go do a Control-A to go back to the beginning and delete it. Now I'll type FBI and hit a space, and you'll see I've edited it. So it says Federal Bureau of Investigation, which I believe is correct. That stands, or that is what, actually, no, let's put has the acronym FBI. Now, if I hit a period, it's going to expand it again. But if I go back here and I do Alt-X and I do the command unexpand abbreviation, and I'll just hit a tab to autocomplete it, it's going to change it back to FBI. So I can unexpand it, or I can turn off abbreviation mode if I don't want to use those abbreviations. Okay, so that's one other thing I can do. All right, so I saved the abbreviations in the .abbreviation_def file, or it's actually in this version of Emacs, I believe it's just, let me change this, abbreviation _def. So let's actually save this, and let's go to our Dear Ed, and let's just go up and take a look here at, let's go to our .emacs.d here, and you'll see it's just abbrev_defs, okay? Now let's go back to our editing here. and go into our markdown here. Okay, I have the font a little bit large, so it kind of does make it a little bit hard to see that, but that's the folder. Now we can turn this on by default. So let me go over here to this buffer here, and let's go to Dear Ed and go up, and we'll go into our .emacs here, go all the way to the bottom here, and we can type in these three commands here to get abbreviation mode on by default. So I'm going to do set q dash default, and then do a space and do abbrev mode and then a T. That'll load it automatically. And then below that, I'll do read abbrev file, and then we're going to do where the file is. So in quotes, we'll do the tilde, and then we want to actually do it in the .emacs.d. I'll fix that. And then it's the abbrev_defs file. And then below that, we want to set q save abrevs t. Okay, and let's write that. Let's quit out of Emacs here. We want to save the text file. Yes. Save abbreviations. That's the other thing it's going to ask you. I'm going to say yes. Okay, now if I start back up Emacs, okay, and let's go to full screen. Let's get back our editing.markdown here. Let's do a split screen here, and let's get back our abbreviations.txt here. Now, you'll see the font is smaller. I'm going to adjust that in a moment. But if I type CIA and hit a space, I've got the abbreviation turned on by default. Let me get that font larger. I'm going to toggle the menu bar mode here and just go up to my options, go to set default font. Now I have it smaller for when I'm just doing it by myself. That's why when it restarted, it was smaller. So let's jump this up so you can see it. Okay, so we can do that. We can also list the abbreves, and I'm going to get rid of this, the menu here. We can also list the abbreves. So if I do Alt-X and do list abbreves, then it's going to list the abbreves here. Let me do Control-X-O to get over here. And actually, let me just show you this because this is kind of crammed. So I'm going to take the mouse and drag this window over a little bit so it looks a little bit nicer. Okay, so we have our two abbreviations. If I wanted to add more abbreviations, let's get some more abbreviations. Let's go back over here. And let's add some abbreviations here. I brought up a blog for teaching abbreviations. So ELA, English Language Arts, ELL. Let's do ELL, English Language Learner. So I'm going to do ELL and then do Control-X AIG because I want a global expansion. So I'm going to type English Language Learner. Okay, hit enter, and it's going to expand is ELL. Now, even if I do it in lowercase, it still expands it. Now, if I go back, put a period here, let's go back a few, and then I can unexpand it. If I can type that right, unexpand abbrev, and then I'll get it to back to normal. Okay. All right. So now if I go over here, let me go over to the other editor over here, go back, and that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry. Actually, what I want to do is just Alt-X and list abbreves. Okay, so now we see that we have ELL in there as well. And I actually believe it did ask me, it said it was changed on disk. Do you want to reload it? And I just went ahead and went into Dear Ed. I haven't had a ton of coffee this morning just yet. Okay, so let's see. Anything else I want to talk about in this video? Let's go back to my Markdown and see. So we talked about putting it in your .emacs. Now, oh yeah, I want to talk about programming because you could use this for programming and spelling. So let's go and do that. Okay, so For programming, let's say I want something for JavaScript, and a lot of times I'll type document.querySelectorAll, right? So let's just do QSA, and let's do Control X, add IG, or AIG for global expansion, and I'm going to type document.querySelectorAll. Okay, and so every time I type QSA and hit a space, I get document.querySelectorAll, which would be pretty nice, right? Because I can do something down here like const, let's say list item equals QSA, and just do, just expand it out like that. So that's programming. So you can definitely come up with a bunch of different things. We could do element by ID. So get element by ID. So GI. Let's do Alt X AI. No, not Alt X. Control X AIG, and we'll do document.get element by ID. And so we can do it for that too. So we could say like const first paragraph, something like that, equals now what is it? GIE document dot get element by ID, and we could do like maybe we have an ID called first paragraph or something like that. And we can quickly expand it for programming. So that's one thing. You could use it for programming if you so choose. The other thing is spelling error. So let's say I typically, if I have the word quiet, I typically misspell it as QUEIT. So cue it. So, and I want to correct myself without having to turn on iSpell or FlySpell. Well, what I can do is I can define this as an abbreviation. So I can type in the misspelling. So Q, it, and then do Control X, AIG or AIL. And I want to retype this as quiet. Okay. And it'll change it for me. So anytime I do this misspelling, so it's Q it just automatically changes it to quiet. So that's one way we can quickly correct ourselves with spelling errors using abbreviation mode. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is turning off abbreviation mode. So you can either just do Alt X and then do abbrev mode, and you can disable it. Do Alt X to Alt X to and return it on, so you can toggle it on and off. But you can also do Alt X and then kill all abrevs. And now if I type like CIA, it's not gonna expand it. If I type GI for get element by ID, it's not gonna expand it. So it's not gonna expand any of those abbreviations. If I want to turn it back on, then all my abbreviations are actually killed at this point. So I would have to re-enable. I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, could you please give it a like? I also want to thank you for watching, and I'm going to end it at this point. So I hope to see you in the next one. Hi, Timothy Unkert here. In this video, we're going to talk about buffers, windows, and frames in Emacs. Now, a window in Emacs is a little bit different than what we typically think of as a GUI window. A GUI window is really what Emacs refers to as frames. We'll get to that in a little bit. A window in Emacs is more of a split screen. First, though, before we're going to talk about that, we're going to talk about switching between buffers. So we can do that with Control XB. Now, the file that I have open is called windows.markdown. I'll include a link to this in the description below in case you want to follow along. But I'm going to switch this to a different buffer by doing Control XB. And I can hit enter the first time and get a buffer list, or I can start to type out the name of the buffer and hit tab. And at this point, I don't have any matches, but then if I go and I look at the buffer list, oh yeah, I have sample.txt. So let's go and do that. And I can go into that file. Now I can do Control XB and I can switch to the Windows.Markdown buffer to switch back. So Control XB can switch between them. Control X, Control F will create a new file. Let's call this practice.txt. And then I can create a new file called practice.txt. I can do Control XB to switch back. Now that I have the first buffer that I opened was Windows.Markdown, I can hit enter and go back to that. Okay, if I want to kill a buffer, I can do Control XK. So let's go and do Control XB and start to type out sample, and I can now tab and autocomplete it. And I'll do Control XK to kill this buffer. Okay, so that closes out that buffer. This here is just a line I added. I'm going to get rid of that. To save a buffer, though, now that I've cut that line out, I can do Control X, Control S, and that saves. Okay. To split a window vertically, I can do Control X2, and that splits it vertically with the buffer split into both windows. Okay, so it's the same buffer in both windows. To keep the top buffer open only, I can do Control X1 to close out that bottom window. I can also do Control X3 to split my buffers horizontally. Well, sorry, vertically, with one next to one another. And what I can do is if I want to keep the left one open only, I can do Control X1. Now, if I want to only keep the right one open, since they're the same file, it won't really matter, I could do Control X0. Let's do Control X0. Okay, so now I don't know if you saw that, but the right one expanded to take the entire screen. Okay, if I do Control X3 again, and then Control X caret, it says cannot enlarge selected window, but if I could enlarge it, it would enlarge it, okay? I can enlarge the window horizontally. Let's see if that works. So do Control X, and yeah. And so I can also do Control U and Control X, and the curly bracket, and that will open it by 4 lines each time I do that, okay? I can do Control X plus to balance the windows again. And I can do Control X and the opening curly bracket, line 15 here. I can do this command to shrink this horizontally. So let's do Control X, and then we'll decrease the horizontal width. If I do Control U and then Control X and the curly brace, then it moves it by 4 characters. Again, I can do Control X and then plus to balance, okay? I can compare windows for changes if there's any changes. We don't have any changes currently, so let's move beyond that. I'm going to do Control X1 and just keep this window open. And if I want to find a file in another window, I can do Control X4 F, and then I can type out the file I want to find. Let's do practice.markdown. And it's going to go open this practice.markdown in the window below. If I want to keep only this window open and close the top one, again, I'll do Control X0. Control X1. Let me do that again. So Control X4F, we're going to do practice.markdown. Okay, and then I would do Control X1. That would keep that open. If I do Control XB, I can hit enter to go back to the default. Okay, I can also just select a buffer in another window that's not necessarily associated with a file with Control X4B, and let's just call a file, let's call this buffer practice, and I can start typing in this buffer for practice, just like this, okay? Now I could do Control XK to kill this buffer, and I'll just kill it, okay? And now I still have 2 windows open, but they're both windows.markdown. I just want to keep one open, so I'm just going to do Control X1, okay? Okay, I can do Control V to scroll the other buffer. Let's do Control X3, and so we'll do Control Alt V, and that's going to scroll through the other buffer if you saw it scrolling there. Okay, I'm going to do Control X1 just to close. So that way I could have the same file open in two different windows, and I could scroll one to different parts of the file. That could be very useful. Okay, if I have, let's say, two buffers open, and I could do a Control X2 here. So I have two windows open on the left-hand side, one on the right. I can do Control XO to move to the other window. Now, you can't really control which way it moves, but it just will move to the next one in the cycle. I can also do Control X2. Now I can open up 4 windows, Control X2, open up a bunch of windows, but now I just want one window open. So I'm going to do Control X1. Okay. So Control X0 will delete the window you're currently in. We covered that. Control X1 will close all the other windows. We could delete windows on a certain buffer. Let's do Control X3 and then Control X2. And we'll do Control XO to move to this one. And then we'll Control XB to switch to a different buffer. We'll call this silly.markdown. And then we'll do Control XO, and we'll we'll also do Control XB and do silly.markdown. Okay, and now let's do Control XO and move to this other one. Well, let's do Alt X, delete. Well, I'm looking for possible delete windows on. Okay, and we delete windows on silly.markdown. Okay, and that deletes all the windows that have silly.markdown in them. Okay, now let's talk about frames. So I can open up another frame with Control X 5.2. Okay, and that opens up another frame. Now we have this other frame, it opens up with the same file. If I want to close this, I'm going to close that, and it actually closed both windows. So let's reopen this, and let me go back here and go back to my editing here and go back down to windows.markdown. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to toggle the menu bar just to increase the font size. So go to options, set default font, and we're going to do this for now just to get this larger. Select. Okay. And then let me toggle this away again. Okay. All right. So where were we? Okay. So we made an additional frame. Let's do that again. So Control X 5.2. Okay. We have an additional frame. If I want to minimize that frame, I can do Control Z. Okay. Now, there's two variables you can set in your Emacs.d. I'm not going to do that for this video, but you have the initial frame A list. That's the first frame that opens. And then the default frame A list. That's going to be the frame that opens up when you open up another frame. Okay. All right. So let's bring up that other frame here. And I can move to another frame with Control X 5.0. Okay, and that moves me between frames. You see the cursor went from this forward frame to this frame back here. If I want to go back, I do Control X 5.0. Okay. Let's go down this one a little bit. Oh, sorry. Control X, Control X. That's not working. All right. Well, that one's not working. We'll just close that one out. Control Z, we talked about toggle frame full screen. If I want to save this and then run the command toggle frame full screen, that's going to toggle that frame into full screen. I can run it again and it'll bring it back to normal. Control X S will save all the buffers that are open. Okay. All right. Let's minimize this one here. And we'll go to this one here. And where are we? Okay. Save some buffers, rename buffer. All right, so let's go and let's do Control X3, and we'll do Control XO and move over, and then we'll do Control XD for DRED, and we'll just pick one, spelling one I already uploaded. So let's do spelling.txt, and what we want to do is we want to do Alt X and then rename buffer. Let's name it spelling. Let's name it spelling.txt. Okay. So now you see at the bottom, we've renamed it spelling.txt. Okay. I want to close this buffer though. I'm going to do Control X0 and get rid of that one. Okay. So that was rename buffers. We can also do save as. So actually let's open it up again, do Control XO, get over here, Control XD, and we'll go to spelling, and we'll do Control X, Control V, and we'll save it as spelling.txt. Okay, so actually I created a new file. What's going on here? Let me update this. Did it do spelling? No, spelling.c. Okay, let's try that again. So Control X, Control V. Find alternative file. Sorry, that was not the save as. Let me actually quit out of here. Let's go up and toggle the menu bar mode. And if we want save as, Control X, Control W. Sorry about that. I typed a V on here. Let me fix that. So let's do Control X O, move to this other document here, and we'll just do Alt F to move forward, and then Control F. This should be Control W. Okay, let's do Control X, Control S to save that, Control X O to move over, and now we'll do Control X, Control W, and we'll write the file now as spelling.txt. Okay. A buffer is visiting, proceed, yes, because we have another buffer. Okay, so now we renamed it. So Control X, Control W. I apologize for that. Okay, I'm going to close this one out though with Control X0, and we're going to move back to here. Okay, we can also open a buffer as read only. So let's do Control X, Control Q. And so now this buffer is toggled as read only. Okay. If I want to toggle it back, I can do Control X, Control Q, and it disables the read-only buffer. Okay. To open a new file as read-only in a new window, I can do Control X for R, and then I would type the name of the file. Let's do spelling.txt. Okay. And now this is open, and you'll see these percentage signs down here, meaning it's read-only. Now I could toggle this with Control X Q, and I could disable it. I'm going to close this with Control X 0. I know this is a lot, but I will include this markdown file so you can go through all this stuff. All right, I can open a file as read-only in a new frame, so let's do that. So Control X 5R, and let's do spelling.txt. And now we'll see that spelling.txt is open in a new frame. And let's do not close tab. Let's just delete the frame. That's what I want to do. Delete that frame, which is to delete the frame. So let's do that again. So we'll do Control X 5R. And we'll do spelling.txt. Okay, to delete the frame, we're going to do Control X 50, and that deletes the frame. Okay. We can also open a buffer list with Control X, Control B. So I just hold down the Control and then do XB, and that gives me the buffer list down at the bottom. And I can do Control X O to move to the buffer list. And there's a whole bunch of different things I can do with the buffer list. Let's say I want to get rid of spelling.txt. I can go to that one, type D, and you get a big D next to it. And then I can type X to execute that, and that deletes it. If I also want to get rid of spelling.txt, I could do K, and that also would delete it. I can do X, okay? I can, let's open the scratch buffer here. Let's mark that one, and let's do V, and that's going to open the scratch buffer in a separate window. So there's a bunch of different options you can do here. Okay, I'm going to do Control X1 to get rid of the scratch buffer, and then Control XV, and I'm actually going to do Windows.Markdown to get back to that one. All right, so in a buffer list, if we want to move up and down, we can do, just like DIR-ED, you can do Control N, or space. You can do Control P, or backspace to move up. Again, D or K marks for deletion. U unmarks, so let's say you mark something for deletion. So let's do Control X, Control B, and Control XO. And let's say I mark this one for deletion, and I said, I don't really want to do that. I'm going to move up and go U to unmark, okay? And I'm just going to close this with Control X0, but U unmarks. S saves the buffer. Again, X to execute. The tilde sign will mark the buffer as unmodified. Percentage sign toggles the read-only status of the buffer. 1 displays the buffer in full screen. Let's do that. We'll do Control X, Control B, and Control XO, and go down and just hit 1 here, and that's going to display the scratch buffer in a full screen. All right, I'm going to do Control XB and go back to Windows.Markdown. 2 can display the buffer and the next one in the horizontal window. So let's demonstrate that. So we'll do Control X, Control B, move into that, Control XO, move over here, and let's just do this top one, Windows.Markdown and Scratch. I'm going to hit 2, and we've got the scratch buffer on the top and the Windows.Markdown on the bottom. I'm going to do Control X1 to just get the current buffer back. Okay, the Windows.Markdown. F, let's see, we'll replace the buffer list with this buffer. So let's demonstrate that. So if I do Control X, Control B, I get to the buffer list, do Control X0. Again, if I want to do the scratch, I'll do F, and we just get the scratch window there. I'm going to close this out with Control X0. Let's move up here. O replaces the other window with this buffer. I think you get the point at this point. Let me move forward here. V will take the buffers marked with M and create other windows. And Emacs will, so you can open as many as you really want, and Emacs will create a bunch of buffers. If I do Control X, Control B, and Control XO, and then do Q, I can quit the buffer list. Okay. One last thing to talk about from the terminal. If I was in the terminal and I wanted to open up multiple files, I can type Emacs and then the names of each of the files, and it will open them in separate windows. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, and at this point the video is getting a little bit long, so I'm going to end it. But I also want to thank you for watching. If you did find this video helpful, could you please give it a like, as it will get out to more people. And I also want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye. Hi, Timothy Youngert here. In this video, I'm going to cover shell commands in Emacs. To run a shell command in Emacs, you're going to type the meta key followed by the exclamation point, or in most keyboards, the Alt key followed by the exclamation point. So to do that, I'm going to type Alt-Shift-1 or Alt exclamation point, and then I'm going to run a shell command of ls to list out the storage in the current directory. And you'll see that I have this mini buffer pop up here with the files here. Now, sometimes this is a little tricky, but sometimes you can click on it. Sometimes it gives me this window buffer is not active. But when I was online, one of the things I was doing is I was creating basically PDFs on my Emacs lessons. And what I was doing is I was SSHFSing into my remote server that holds my website, or one of my websites. And I was going to a directory, creating markdown files. And then I was doing Alt-Shift and then running a pandoc command. So pandoc, and then let's say I had, these are the actual ones that I copied. Let's say I do editing one.markdown -o for output, and then editing -1, whoops, spell this right, editing -1.pdf. And I would run that command, and that would create a PDF on the remote server, and then I could link it, okay? So the output of that is on this website here. This website I have, timunkert.com, which if you're following these Emacs tutorials, you might be noticing, oh, I'm putting up some of these PDFs. So like for instance, on this lesson, that's how I created this PDF, was running a shell command, the pandoc shell command, on a remote server. So you can go here and download the free PDF with all the lesson plans. Also, just want to note that with this website, if I go to the home here, you'll see that I'm listing out some of the games I created, my YouTube playlist on Emacs, and then each individual video I've been posting on YouTube. So if you want to find them easier, I've gone back through August. I have to go back further through previous months, but I do have, the most recent 6 months up there where you could go and take a look if you want. I'll leave a link to that website and a link to this PDF in the description below. Okay, let's get back to our Markdown file. And so we can run a shell command that way. I'm going to just Control G to quit out of there. And another thing we can do is, we can run a shell command on a region. So if I want to mark this region, I'm going to do Alt-H to mark the paragraph there. And I can run a shell command just on this region with Alt and then the pipe. So I'm going to do Alt-Shift and the key below the backspace. So Alt and the pipe, and the shell command on the region I want to run is sort. And then you'll see below in this mini buffer, it sorts them out, okay? And I could copy that if I wanted to and switch to it. The other thing I can do is, and this makes it a little bit easier, is I can run the shell command and put the output in the current buffer. So let's say I want to list the storage and put the output in the current buffer. Let's go do that. So I'm going to do Control U and then Alt exclamation point or Alt Shift 1. And then I'm going to run the shell command ls, and it's going to output the files that I have in this current directory right in my buffer. So that's helpful if you're running a bunch of shell commands and you want to put them into a buffer. Okay, so I did this with this directory that I had on my remote server. You can do that as well. I put that in here just to show you the files on the remote server. Okay, you can also, let me split panes here. So I'm going to do Control X3. And what I'm going to do is Alt X and then type shell. And now I'm into a shell on the right-hand side here. Okay, so now I can run shell commands right from here. And to stop a shell command, I'm going to do Control C, Control C. But I can run a bunch of stuff, like I could run my pandoc. Let's say I had this one called lesson, one.markdown-o, and I could do lesson one.pdf. And say I was working on a remote server with SSHFS, it's a little bit slow, this pandoc command, so it takes like a minute or so to do this. So while it's doing this, depending on the internet connection, of course, while it's doing this, I can switch over to this buffer here and be working on stuff while this is running over here. Okay, I'm not going to do that right now, but that's just a demonstration of something you could do. So you could do a task that's kind of taking a while you're doing some work in another buffer. Okay, if I do Alt P or Meta P, that's going to tell me the last command I ran, which actually was exit, and then I can cycle up through my previous commands, and I can cycle back down with MN, or sorry, Alt N, Meta N. So I can cycle up to the previous with Meta P and cycle to the next one with Meta N. Okay, We can also have output groups. So let's just, I don't know, list out the storage here, and let's do see how much disk we have. And now I can use Control C and then Control P to go to a previous one, and then Control C, Control P to go to the next previous one. And I can do Control C, Control N to cycle to the next one, Control C, Control N to move down through my output groups. So you'll see that Control C, Control P right here, and Control C, Control N right here. That moves you through the output groups. I can also rename shell sessions, so I can create as many shell sessions as I want. That's hard to say. And I can also, in my .emacs or init.el file, I can set the shell file name. So for instance, if I wanted bash, I would do bin/bash. Now, typically it goes whatever your default shell is. Mine is bash. So I think it runs that. But you could set ZSH or whatever you want. The other command, the final command I want to talk about in this video is just if I do Alt-X and then type send invisible, that will basically hide passwords. I've noticed that the shell, like when I do SSHFS, it will ask me for my cPanel password after I type in my username and IP, and it will hide it anyways. But that's an additional thing you can do in Emacs. So that pretty much concludes it. Please, check out the site here and check out, you can also go from the home page, go to the downloadable PDFs. So I've created a bunch. So editing one, they'll open in separate windows. You can just click download to download them. It shows all the commands here. And so these were all created using basically these shell commands. So it's one useful thing that I did was just updating this website with the shell commands here. Anyways, I want to thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like, and that'll help it get out to more people. And I hope to see you in the next one. Have a great day. Hi, Timothy Unkert here. In this video, we're going to talk about the built-in file manager in Emacs called DearEd and all the things that you can do with it. Now, I have up on the screen my website that I've been building along with this YouTube channel, just links to my posts and that kind of thing, timunkert.com. Check it out if you like. Shameless plug. And what I'm doing right now is I'm working on the website through SSHFS, and I'm working on it with Emacs. And I'm using DearEd to do that. So let me switch to Emacs here, and let's increase the font with Control-X, Control-Shift+, and then we can just use plus for further adjustment there. That's a little bonus tip here. And let's go to the top of this file. And I have this file. This file is located in a directory called PDFs. You can see down below at the bottom of the screen. It's in this directory called PDFs. I'm in DearEd right now, and I've created this .org file that I'm going to convert to a PDF and include in the link below in case you're interested. Just throwing that out there. Anyways, so to get into DearEd, the command that you use to get into DearEd is Control-XD. So let's do that, Control-XD. Okay, and then you'll see it right in the mini buffer at the bottom. Hopefully you can see this. It gives you a prompt, and I could go back and go into a different directory, but I'm just going to go into the current one by pressing enter. Okay, so now I'm in this current directory here. Let's do that again, Control-X, Control-Shift+ to just get this a little bit larger so you can see it. So we're in DearEd. This is what DearEd looks like. Okay, now to go back into my file, I just navigate with, I can go down with Control-N, with N, or with space. And to go up, I can go up with Control-P, P, or backspace. Okay, so I'm going to backspace up to deared.org, hit enter, and we're going to go through this file. Okay, the other way you can visit DearEd is with Control-X, Control-F, so find file, or anything where you visit a file. So I'll do Control-X, Control-F, and you'll see the mini buffer. Hopefully you see this. Again, we're in PDFs. Let's say I want to, sorry about that. Let's say I want a backspace here, and I just want to go into tutorials. I'm going to hit enter. And now I'm in the tutorials directory. Okay, I can go into the PDFs directory by hitting enter. here, okay? And then back into my file by hitting enter when the cursor is over the file, okay? Okay, so there's another thing when we go into Dear Ed, if we do Alt-X or Meta-X and then font log mode, that can toggle colors in Dear Ed. So the theme I'm using is actually a theme based off VS Code, hoping it shows up good on the video. Please leave comments. I've had a few people leave comments like, hey, your videos needs a little bit better resolution here. That is helpful, so please leave comments if you like this and it's showing up nicely and the font is showing up nicely. Okay, so if I go Control XD here, I can do Alt X and then font, and I'm going to look at the possible completions, and I want to do font lock mode, okay, I believe. And so it says font lock mode is disabled in the current buffer. Now, if I do Alt X and then do an up arrow, I can run it again and re-enable it, and you see that its coloration on the top changes a little bit. So that's a little bit with coloration. It depends on the theme. Some of the themes may be different. When I'm hovering over these things with the mouse, you can see that they're colored a little differently when font lock mode is on. So you can toggle that on and off if you want. That's a little bonus. But let's get into what we really want to do. So M will mark the files. So let's go Control XD, hit enter, go back in here, and let's mark some files. So I marked that one. I'm going to go down, mark this one, and mark this one. Now, if I want to do something with these files, and you'll see there's a little asterisk by the files that are marked as well. I can now run some commands on these. We're going to go up right now, though, and I'm just going to go up with P and hit U to unmark. And I can just unmark all these. And then I'm going to go 9P, and I can do that. I can move up and down. It basically fills in the Control U for me, so I can, if I want to go down 10 in Dear Ed, I can go, or down 5 in Dear Ed, I can do a 5N, and I'll go down 5N. 5P brings me back up. So that's a little key shortcut in Dear Ed. Okay, S will sort Dear Ed. Okay, so let's do Control XD, get into Dear Ed, and do S, and it sorts it. And if I do S, it toggles it back. Okay. We talked about space. We talked about backspace. Okay, if I go and do V over file, let's do that. So Control XD, and let's do V. I'm now in view mode, and I can quit out of view mode with Q, okay? Now I'm just gonna hit enter to go back into normal mode. You can also do an incremental search with S, and you can press equal to see what line the cursor is placed on if you're in view mode. Okay. Like I said, we got back into this file hitting enter. Okay, if I do Control XB, let's do Control XB, and I do a directory name. Let's do PDFs, and that's going to put me back in Dear Ed. So that's another way to do it. I typically don't go into it that way. I usually do Control XD. You can also get into Dear Ed with Alt X and just typing Dear Ed and hitting enter, and then enter again. Again, Control XD seems to be the shortest. If I do Control X, Control B, that's going to display a buffer menu that show you the directory as well. If I want to delete a file, so actually let me create a file first. So let's do Control XD, get into PDFs, and I'm going to create a file with the plus. So I do Shift and the key next to the backspace, so plus equals. So Shift plus, that's going to create, actually that's going to create a directory, sorry. Let me do Control G to quit out of that, and Control X, Control F to find a file. Let's create a file called test.org. And that's going to put me in the new file. This is a little bit slow because I'm on a remote server. I'm going to do Control X, Control S, and that's going to write the file. And now I'm going to go back, Control XD. To update Dear Ed, I'm going to type G. Okay, and we'll see the autosave file updates and this test.org. Now, if I want to delete this, I can do D, and then I can do X. Now, if I want to delete it, I'm going to type yes. In this case, I'm going to type no, okay? And I'm going to go back up and unmark this file. And what I can do to delete it without typing X is a capital D. And then it says, do you want to delete it? And at this point, I'm going to say yes, because I don't need a blank test.org file on my remote server. Okay, so now I'm going to go up and go back to deared.org and go down here. And like we said, U unmarks it. The hashtag will flag all the autosave files for deletion. Okay, so let's go Control XD here, and I'm just going to type Shift 3, which is the hashtag, and you see that it marks the autosave file deared.org for deletion. I'm going to go up and unmark that for now. But I could hit X after that and then delete it. Okay. Now, if I had a bunch of autosave files, I cleared out this folder early this morning. If I had a bunch, I could do the hashtag and get rid of them. Now, the backup files have the little tilde. So if I go back here, you'll see the next thing. If I do this tilde, it flags all the backup files for deletion. Okay. Like we talked about, D will delete a file without X. Copy a file with capital C. Let's try that. So let's just do capital C here, and we want to copy it to, let's call it dearedbackup.org. Okay, we'll just make a backup. Okay, and we copied it, and now if I go into dearedbackup.org, and I hit tab to expand it, you'll see I've got the same thing in the file. Now, with this, I changed the font size with Control X and then Control Plus. It only changes for the particular directory that I change it in. I'm going to go back, or the particular file that I change it. Go back to Deared with Control X D, go back to this original file here, and let's keep going down there. Okay, so that was copying. You can combine it with a number in front for copying several files. Okay, let's actually demonstrate that. So I'll do Control XD, and let's do 3C, and I'm going to copy the next 3 files to bigfile.org. Okay, and oh, it must be a directory. I'm sorry. Let's do that again. So 3C, let's copy it to copied files, and let's hit enter. Let me try it again. 3C, copied files. Let me do this. It might mean I might have to create the directory. Let's create the directory first. Let's create a directory called copied files. Okay, so now we've got that. Let's go down one, and then let's do 3C. Okay, and now I'm going to go to copied files. Okay, and you'll see it's copying. Now, if I go into copied files, you'll see I have those 3 files. Sorry about that. I'm going to get rid of this. So I'm going to delete the directory by Shift D. And it's going to say, do you want to delete copied files? I'm going to say yes. Okay. And then it's going to ask me for a directory, recursively delete copied files. I'm going to say yes. Okay. So now it's gotten rid of those. I'm going to unmark that. And that was marked as a copy, but I just wanted to unmark that. And actually, let's delete it with D and then X and type yes, because I don't really need that backup. Let's go back into this file and keep going. All right, so R will rename a file. Okay, so if we go Control XD here, and let's create a file. We'll do Control X, Control F. We'll do test.org again. And we'll do Control X, Control S to save it. And you'll see there's a little bit of pause there. That's because I'm actually SSHFSing to a remote server. I'm going to do G to update. Okay. And let's go down here with N, and then let's type an uppercase R, and we're going to rename it to, let's rename it to testy.org. Okay. And now it's testy.org. Okay. So we can rename a file with R. We can also move a file with R, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. Z toggles compression of a file. I'm not going to compress any files right now, but just know that that is available to compress and uncompress a file. To compare files, you can place a mark in a file and press the equal sign. Won't do that just now. To compare a file and its backup, we're going to use the meta key and the equals, okay? And we can also run a shell command on a file. So let's go to, let's actually find a file. So let's do Control X, Control F. And if we find a file, we're going to create it in the PDFs directory. Let's call this list.markdown. And we'll do 3 names. So we'll do Tim Unkert, Johnny McJohn, and Sally McSchuster. And let's save that file. Okay. And let's do Control XD now, get here, and we're going to go down, we're going to update it with G. So we see that we have list.markdown. Let's do the exclamation part. So we want to run something, let's run a sort. Okay, and if we run the sort, you see this mini buffer pops up down here that has this sort with Johnny McJohn, then Sally McSchuster, and then my name, Tim Unkert. So it alphabetically sorts them. So we can run a shell command with the exclamation point on a file within DIR-ED. Okay, let's go back down here to our file. Okay, we talked about that. We talked about G updating DIR-ED. If I do 2 asterisks, it selects all the executable files. If I do an asterisk and a /, it selects directories. Let's show you that. So I'm going to do Control XD. Let's go up because we don't have any directories here. Let's keep going up. Okay, I have some directories here. So I'm going to do the asterisk and then the /, and you'll see all the directories change colors, and they all have asterisks by them. So I've marked all these directories. Now, I really don't want to do that, so I'm just going to type U to unmark everything as I move, but that is something that I can do. I'm going to go back to my Emacs tutorials, back to my PDFs, and back to DIR-ED. And notice I've changed the font size only for certain buffers here. So that is something with DIR-ED. That's not specific to DIR-ED, but that's something with Emacs. Okay, an asterisk and the @ symbol selects symbolic links. A %M, that marks all files that match a regular expression. So let's do that. So I'm going to do Control XD to enter DIR-ED, and I'm going to do %M, and I'm going to mark files with a regular expression. Let's look for buffer, okay? And we've got 2 files that have buffer in them, okay? Now, let me unmark that. Okay, and we could do something like %M, and then we could do a caret and then buff, and it would mark those 2 directories because they're matching that regular expression. So I'm going to unmark those. Go back. All right, back down here. %G marks all files whose contents match the regular expression. So let's do Control XD, and let's do %G, and we'll do a caret and then buff. And it's checking through all the contents here. It's scanning through. Let's see if any of them have that. 1 file match. So shell commands has buffer somewhere into it. So let's actually unmark this. And let's go into shell commands. And let's do a search for buff. And we see we've got it marking buff in all these places. So all these little files marked buff, okay? So I'm just gonna just quit out of that and then Control XD, and I'm quitting out with Control G, by the way, just in case you're wondering. Okay, we talked about the plus creates a directory. Want to talk more about R. So it does move, it acts as MV in Linux. So let's say I wanted to, let's create a directory. Let's do Shift+ and create a directory called super-js, okay? And I put the super-js in my PDFs file, and I'm like, I don't really want it there. So I'm gonna do Shift-R, and then I'm gonna backspace to my root of timunkert.com, and then type in super-js, okay? And it just went ahead and moved it, okay? So now if I go up to my base directory, I have super.js. So I'm going to do a D to mark for deletion, X, type yes. I don't really want a folder called super.js. I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to delete it. It didn't ask me to recursively delete anything because it didn't have any files in it yet. Okay, I'm going to go back to PDFs. Let's go back to dir-ed.org. Okay, A searches across mark files for a regular expression. Let's try that. So we'll do Control XD. Again, to mark files, we're going to do M. So I'm going to just go down and mark a few files randomly here. And let's say I mark those as a group of files for some reason. I'm going to do A, and I'm going to search for a regular expression. Let's search for just something with P in it, okay? So I'm going to hit enter, and it's searching. And now it opens up a separate buffer and shows me what line in each file has that. So you notice it matches provided by timwinker.com at the bottom. So it's on line 56 in the first file, line 50 in the second file, line 25 in the spelling file. I'm going to do Control X 0 to get rid of that buffer, but that's one thing we can do. And let's unmark these here, and let's just unmark everything. Go back to Dear Ed here, and Q, we won't do that, but that completes a query replace unmarked files. The caret moves you to a parent directory. So let's show you that. So do Control XD, and we'll do the caret, and we go up to the parent directory, go up to the parent directory. Now, if I do the right arrow goes to the next directory, the left arrow goes to the previous one, and I can move through directories in Dear Ed that way. Let's go back to Emacs tutorials, back to PDFs, and back to Dear Ed. And I think that's pretty much it that I wanted to cover in this. I'll provide a PDF. I'm going to change this org file into a PDF using pandoc, using a shell command. I talked about that in a previous video, the one before this, I believe. And then I'll provide a link to that in the description below so you can go through all these commands in Dear Ed. But Dear Ed is very powerful. You don't need any other file manager in Emacs. It comes built in with an awesome directory management system. Anyway, so let's conclude this video. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a like as it will get out to more people. I also want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a great day. Hi, Timothy Unkert here. In this video, I want to talk about Emacs CUA mode. Now, you may be wondering, what is CUA mode? Well, typically in Emacs, if I say want to copy this line here, I would do an Alt-W, and then I would go down and do Control-Y to paste, okay? I could also cut this if I do Control-W, and then again to paste would be Control-Y. Now this is the Emacs way of doing things, but some people new to Emacs may be used to Control-C, Control-X, and Control-V. Well, there's a way to easily set up Emacs to do that, and it's called CUA mode. So what I'm going to do is make sure I have my menu bar showing, and to do that, I'm going to toggle the menu bar. So I'm just doing a little command down here. Hopefully you can see it. Toggle menu bar mode from frame, like so. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to options, and I'm going to go to this option here that says use CUA keys. I'm going to click on that. And now if I want to save it so I have CUA keys in the future, I can go to options and just click on save options down there. Okay, so now what I can do is I can use the mouse in Emacs, and I can do a Control-C here, and that's going to copy it, and we can paste with Control-V. Now let's make a different tag here. Let's do a paragraph. This is a paragraph, and again, if I want to copy this, I just do a Control-C and a Control-V to paste. And I can do a Control-X to cut, and let's say I wanted to paste it up here in the head. Shouldn't do that in HTML, but let's just say I wanted to. I can paste with Control-V. So it's as simple as that to set up CUA mode in Emacs. So you can do Control-C, Control-V, and Control-X to cut. I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, could you please give it a like, as it will help get out to more people? And also, if you could consider subscribing, it really does help the channel grow. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Hi, Timothy Unkert here. In this video, I want to talk about Emacs CUA mode. But first, let's talk about how we copy, cut, and paste in Emacs. So I'm going to highlight a region here, and I can copy this with Alt-W, and then I can paste it with Control-Y. Now, if I want to highlight the region again, I can cut it with Control W, and I can paste it again with Control Y. So that's the Emacs way of doing things, but it's a little bit different than what some people are used to today, which is Control C to copy, Control X to cut, and Control V to paste. But what if there were a way in Emacs where you could set it up so you use Control C, Control X, and Control V? Well, it turns out there is, and it's called CUA mode. And it's very easy to set up. So you have Emacs set up in CUA mode for every time that you turn on Emacs. Okay. So to set it up, you want to have the menu bar showing. Now, typically I don't show it, but to toggle the menu bar, I'm just going to do Alt X and then type in toggle, a space, and then menu, and I'll just set a tab, and it gives me toggle menu bar mode from frame. I'll hit enter, and the menu bar will show up here. I'm going to click options, and then I'm going to go down and click on use CUA keys. I'm going to click on that. And now to save it for future sessions, I'll go down here and just click on save options. And you'll see down in the mini buffer that the file init.el in the directory .emacs.d was written. Okay, so it went ahead and saved that as an option. I'm going to now toggle the menu bar mode from frame, just so I have it the way I like it. And I can highlight this one, and instead of doing Alt W to copy, I can do Control C. Okay, I can go down here and now paste instead of Control Y, Control V. Okay, and to cut, I can do Control X. And let's say I wanted to do something silly like put a paragraph in the head of an HTML document. Never do that, but I can do Control V to paste. Okay, so it's very easy to set up CUA mode. And I hope you found this video informative and helpful. If you did, could you please give it a like, as it will help get out to more people? And could you also consider subscribing if you haven't done so already? It really helps the channel grow. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Hi, Timothy Unger here. A lot of people talk about Doom Emacs, but not as much talk as about SpaceMacs, which is another Emacs community configuration. So in this video, I thought I'd go through installing SpaceMacs and take a first look at SpaceMacs. Now, SpaceMacs hasn't had a release in a few years, but if we go and search for SpaceMacs GitHub, and we go to the GitHub page here for SpaceMacs, you can see that it was just updated 3 days ago. So it does still look like it's being actively maintained. So I'm going to go and click on install here. And basically what we're going to need to do is we're going to go open a terminal, and we're going to clone their configuration into the .emacs.d directory. That's where you configure Emacs. So it's just going to take their configuration and put it in there. All right, so I'm going to copy this, and let's just open up a terminal here. And I got to start my Linux container. Hold on one sec. Okay, so now I'm just going to paste this in and hit enter and let it do its thing. Okay. All right, so it's cloned that into the .emacs.d directory. So taking their configuration, put it there. I'm going to close out my terminal now, and let's open up Emacs. Okay, and now that Emacs is open, you see in the bottom here it says, what is your preferred editing style? So you can say among the stars aboard the evil flagship, or on the planet Emacs in the holy control tower. Okay, so you can choose either one. I think this is somewhat based off of running Emacs and Vim together. So I'm going to choose Vim for right now. So we'll do Vim and hit enter. Um, so what distribution of SpaceMacs would you like to start with? Standard distribution, which is recommended, or a minimalist distribution that you can build on. So either SpaceMacs or SpaceMacs base. I'm going to just go with the recommended, which is SpaceMacs. And it's going to go ahead and you can see it's going to Melpa right now and downloading some of the packages. So I'll pause the video and come back when it's done with that. Okay, it looks like it ran through and installed all the packages. I did get a few warnings here. I'm just going to close this out and then let's reopen it and see where it's going here. Okay, and it's still installing some packages, so this may take a moment. Okay, so now it's giving me that SpaceMacs is ready, but it can't find the specified font source code Pro. So that's okay. So let's go here and let's just Google source code Pro, Google Fonts, and click on that. And so we'll get that font. So I'm just going to go for the regular 400 here. Let's make sure I don't have anything in here. No, I don't. Okay. So we'll go and select this style. I'm going to open up the side panel here and show you. I'll download all. Okay. And show in folder here. And I'm going to go into this zip file. I'm just going to copy this with Control C. Now I'm running a Chromebook, so I'm going to go to my Linux files, show my hidden files, and we're going to have to put that in a .local. So let me open up a terminal here because I just need to make that. So I'm going to do mkdir-p. So that's going to allow me to make directories within directories. So I'm going to make a directory called .local. Within that, I'm going to have a directory called share. And then within that, I'm going to have a directory called fonts. Okay, now I can close that out. And you'll see that this appeared. So I'm just going to go into here. Now, with Google, the latest update, they won't let me make the dot file, dot directories. So I have to do it with the terminal. Okay, so I'm just going to paste that in there. And let's see, did I totally shut down? Pull this back up, close this out here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to close this out and then reopen. And let's see. So it's only giving me the warning package CL is deprecated. That's something with 27.1. It does give that warning. Okay, let's maximize this. Now, I have checked this out before. You can maximize it in your configuration settings. Maybe I'll take a look at that near the end of the video. But so it just pops up maximized from the start. Let's do Control X, Control Shift plus. There we go. Okay, so we can make this bigger now and we can start to take a look at this. Now let's just create a test file. So I'm just going to take a first look here. So I'm going to do Control X, Control F for find file. And let's create a file called index.html. Okay, and we'll just make an HTML file. And it says, suggest support for web mode installation of HTML. Do you want to install it? Yes. So I want to install web mode. Okay, so that's going to go ahead and install web mode and install a few packages there. So that's cool. And it's setting it up for you. So, and it's installing the company plugin, which is an autocomplete as well. So that's interesting. We're doing company at web. So this is interesting to try this out. I've used web mode before, but I haven't used a lot of these other ones. We have council. Oh, Emmet mode. Okay, nice. Helm CSS. I haven't really done much with Helm. Impatient mode. I don't even know what that is. Let's see what else we got here. Prettier. Okay. So I may need to actually, I don't think I have Node set up on this one. So I may need to set up Node to get some of this stuff to work. But right now it's just first impressions. So let's see. Oh, okay. And yeah, snippet. All right. Okay. Let's loading async done. So let's just do Control X1 to get one window. And again, Control X. Let's just make this a little bit larger. Okay. So we start off, okay, starting off in Vim mode. Okay, so let's do, okay, so it's got Emmet mode installed, so that's nice. That's nice. Okay, right out of the box, it's got Emmet mode installed. Let's just pull this up here and see. Is it saying web? It's not saying web. Oh, no, it says it here. Okay, so it is web mode. So let's do an H1. And then if I go to close it, it's got the auto closing of web mode. That is nice. So this is a sample HTML document. Okay. Let's go down here. We can do a paragraph again with Emmet. I'm liking this. This is nice. This is a very nice. Okay. So it configures it for, so I wanted to create an HTML document. It configures it for you so that, you can quickly develop an HTML document right out of the box. This is very nice. They do the default indenting is 4 spaces, which is interesting because Emacs 27.1 and HTML plus mode is 2 spaces. I kind of like the 4 spaces one just because it's consistent with my hosting company. They have their editors online are all set for 4 spaces. I'm sure I could adjust it, but just to kind of keep from, okay, this is what I'm doing offline to, okay, I'm going to put my website online and work on it on their little editor. If I have to make a little quick change, it's nice. Okay. To keep that consistency. All right. So we've got a paragraph here. Okay. Typical stuff. All right. So let's see. Let's do ULLI. Okay. So we got that. Let's go. Yank 10p. Okay. So we can, typical Vim key bindings work. So we can make a great little HTML file very quickly. All right, let's create a CSS file. So Control X, Control F. Let's call it style.css. I'm not putting this in any kind of folder. Let's again make the font a little bit larger. I'm sure you can probably adjust the initial font size in your settings. But anyway, so all right, so it's basically a traditional way of the font size, okay, of changing the font size in Emacs. So that's not changed. Let's see. So body. Let's do, I don't know, let's do BGC. Okay, background color, that works well. Let's do D3, D3, D3. Okay. Yeah, so looks like we have Emmet abbreviations. Let's do FS, what is that? Font style. Okay, font style. Yeah, that works. So the Emmet abbreviations for CSS work. Let's just see something because I want to see if we have some autocomplete here. So let's do a paragraph and let's start typing. I have a traditional autocomplete with Emacs, but it doesn't look like it's suggesting anything for me. So I thought I saw some company stuff coming in, but anyway, so yeah, so it looks like a lot of the traditional Emacs key bindings still work along with Evil mode. Let's see also if I can do Alt X and then toggle off Evil mode. Okay, so now this, yeah, now it's in regular Emacs mode. So just like normal, you can toggle off Evil mode. That's pretty nice. Let's see if I can change the theme. Okay, and yeah, okay, we've got this. Now you may not like me for this, but I actually like the lighter themes. So let's do SpaceMacs Light. Yes, we'll trust it. Okay, so that's the lighter theme. That may be a little bit bright for you, but and here's Dear Ed. And actually, for the video, I'll go back to the other theme. So let's do Alt X, customize themes. We'll go back here and go back to SpaceMacs Dark. Okay. Yes, I want that to load. Okay. And let's do Go back, and this is what Dear Ed looks like in SpaceMacs. I think we have TreeMacs. I'll have to explore that because I've usually used Dear Ed. But I can go back. We have the file icons here, which is kind of nice. We've got a bash RC icon, HTML5 icon. I don't know if I saved the style.css. I might not have. So, all right. So we go back here and get back into our files. Just traditionally like Emacs, I can do probably Alt X and do evil mode and just turn that back on. So now it's in evil mode. Oh, did my cursor change color? Let's see. So let's do evil mode here, and we can select between the two. No, I guess it didn't. So now this is back in Emacs mode. Anyways, yeah, I think this is a nice little configuration. Not little, but nice configuration set up. I'm going to explore this a bit more. I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please give it a like, as it will help get out to more people. And I want to thank you for watching. Also, consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. It really does help the channel grow. So again, thank you for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.
Hi, Timothy Unkert here. I recently did a video on Emacs 28.1, and I went through a first look. I went ahead and installed it. I also did a video on building Emacs 28.1 from source on a Chromebook. But in the first video, what I noted was that I couldn't install Emacs Evil Mode from non-GNU ELPA.